Good morning and welcome to our RPP coverage of the Portsea Legends Pro-Am at this magnificent course for the year 2019. It's a terrific field and play has been underway for about half an hour or so. Most players have played 2 to 3 holes. It's a shotgun start this morning, meaning that every group tees off at a different point on the course, with the idea being that all groups finish at roughly at the same time. Well, looking through the field, there's about 25 groups and some famous names in professional golf. Peter Senior, defending his title from last year, is in the draw. He's teeing off the first hole, which means he will finish on the 18th. Peter Lonard, what a terrific New South Welshman golfer he's been over many, many decades. And a lot of these blokes are so conditioned to pro-ams these days. And there has been a circuit on the Mornington Peninsula recently. And I know this is the one here at Portsea, a magnificent course which was founded back in 1925. So it's nearly 100 years old. Originally, like so many of the courses here, 9 holes. Then it became 10 holes, then 12. And I think in the mid-40s, eventually 18 holes. It's been a very popular layout. It has wonderful undulations. It's considered a hilly course, cut through the magnificent peninsula vegetation of tea trees, mooners, and the soil is a golf course architect's and curator's delight. It seldom floods, the water just seeps, and the fairways. In fact, Peter Thompson, this is one of Peter Thompson's, or was, favourite courses of all time. He had a holiday house down by the back of the old 15th hole. So it's seen 2 or 3 different clubhouses, but the new clubhouse was established about 5 or 6 years ago. It is a gem, and it doubles as a boutique luxury accommodation outlet from Mercure, and the views are amazing. And because of the new clubhouse, the sequence of Portsea Golf Club was rearranged. The holes are the same, but just in a different sequence. And from our broadcast point here, and I must admit, the RPP technical team has done a magnificent job. No stone unturned, and we'll be doing everything to give you the best coverage possible. Johnny McCormick, Portsea Golf Club member and RPP stalwart, will be joining me with the coverage a little bit later on this morning, which you can see on YouTube or the RPP Facebook. So all the necessary details will be available on those outlets. So we're at the back of the 7th par 3, which is considered one of the finest par 3s, not only on the peninsula but in Australia. It is a gem of a hole, and each group will be coming through every 10 minutes or so. Here's a group now coming down the hill through the famous gully. And an interesting thing with Portsea Golf Club these days is, and this doesn't occur with many courses, each hole has a name. And the 7th hole here, 169 yards, is called Glory Box. Don't know why, don't know how, but some of the names here, Armitage, that's a famous family name that was responsible for the foundation of this golf club. Delgany, the classic building beside what used to be the 16th hole. London Bridge, well, of course, Portsea Golf Club being on London Bridge Road. Hole number 1, Mooner. Hole 4, Jack Howard. Now, Jack was one of the founders of this famous golf club. So we'll be keeping you throughout the morning updated with scores and progress. This very challenging par 3, which you can see, I think will, traditionally with par 3s, most players who don't hit the green with their tee shot invariably finish short and you guessed it, on the right-hand side. So we'll see what pattern develops. One thing I have noticed is that normally golf balls are white, but I've never seen so many orange and green golf balls just in the short amount of time that we've had here. And just going through some of the other names of well-known pros, because these are the senior pros now. They've been around a while and they love a pro-am, particularly at a venue like this. David Good, what a famous player he's been over many years, originally from Tasmania. He's held many course records. Glenn Joyner, golfing fans will well remember Glenn, originally from Adelaide. Lucian Tinkler, New South Welshman. Trevor McDonald. Now, Trevor McDonald has a unique record that not many golfers, even professional golfers, can have, and that's having 2 hole-in-ones on the one day at Woodlands Golf Course. And I'll certainly look forward to having a chat with Trevor as he vacates the 7th green. Michael Harwood. Now, Michael Harwood in 1991 ran second to Ian Baker Finch in the British Open. I think it was the only time Australians have quinelled the famous British Open back in 1991. John Wade, Frank Canellan, who many years ago was the pro at Sorrento down the road, and as I mentioned before, Peter Lonard and Peter Senior. There are some great prizes. There's a long drive. There's a $10,000 hole-in-one prize. Plenty of good prizes too for the amateurs. So hope you enjoy the day. Hope you enjoy the coverage. And better still, if you are in the area, pop down to Portsea Golf Club, London Bridge Road, Portsea. It is a gem of a golf course. The conditions are much better than what the Bureau forecast in the last couple of days. It's sunny, believe it or not, and typically on the peninsula, windy, but that all adds to the challenges of the game. I look forward to the rest of the morning and your company, and dear friend John McCormick will be joining me in the box on the RPP van a little bit later on.
We're not using live scoring today, are we? Soon find out. Soon find out. Yeah. We're not playing a bad shot, mate. Yeah, don't drop the F-bombs, you blokes. I had mum saying the other day, he said there are only 2 kinds of drive. He said it's either, oh shit, or that'll do.
Wind is helping.
Well, it feels it's quite strange, actually.
More than
It'll be coming through that tunnel to the right.
Yeah.
We won't feel it from here.
No.
There's a dip there and it comes through there.
It comes through there. And the way the wind's blowing up on from there, it's coming there. It's swirling around the hills.
Straight off the back of the second over
Through that dome. Sort of, when you're like on that whole there, you're down there waiting for the finish. And you see guys with the flagging putting, you think, oh, he's only practicing. Because that's what used to happen. They'd leave they'd putt practicing. But now, of course, I don't know whether they're practicing or it's for real.
There always seemed to be an anomaly though that you could be just off the green 12 feet from the flag and you could leave the pin in. But if you're 40 feet away and on the green, you can't.
Well, that's all cleared up now, isn't it? Sorted that out.
It's all fixed and you have to wait. And the whole thing was that everyone practices. When you practice, you don't go flat out on the wrong courses.
short. No,
Short of
I'll
what?
take it.
Take
Take
it.
it.
It was on line, I think. I think you had the right line.
That's a sneaky old man shot, isn't it?
You had the right line. At what point did you actually start to feel a little bit of excitement? When it got on the green?
Oh, that's a bit left, I'm afraid.
Well,
As long as it kicks
the
through
way
the
Sid's
right.
came around.
Should go there. Oh, look at this.
Oh, he's just made it too.
Oh,
And you
and now down off the bunker.
Well,
Kissed on the big
You two are.
clear, it's just kissed.
Hey Sid, don't forget there's a microphone there. That picks
I
all
said it
that up.
quiet, didn't I?
It doesn't matter how
Say
quiet.
quiet.
It doesn't matter how quiet you say it. Remember the Ranatunga comment? That was only said loud enough for him to hear it. Right.
Sitting in there saying they're the two pros. These are the amateurs here.
Like I said, mate, the microphone's there. They can hear the bullshit you're carrying on with.
Keep on the amateurs.
Come on, the wind should be blowing it back for you. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, I just didn't catch it. Never caught it.
that looks good. Good strike.
Going in though. Come on, roll down, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's not getting there, is it? No, he's all right though. That's paddable. Nice.
at all?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, you're right.
163, 165, 175.
We'll see you get it in if that's possible, please. What's this? Oh, is that a mic?
Yeah, maybe they're recording all of them, so
Yeah.
just in case someone gets it.
Gets it in.
They've got a few people there.
Morning, Glenn. Yes, you called it. It's not the 19th, but it will be a little bit later on. The RPP outside broadcast van with a wonderful crew of expert technicians has based itself at the back of the famous 7th hole, one of the gems of par threes, not only on the peninsula, but worldwide. And this is for the Higgins Coatings Legends Seniors Pro-Am. Legends, of course. So there's a terrific field of veteran golfers. Well, they're not that old actually, but how's this for some names? Peter Senior defending his title from last year. Peter Lonard, he's won his trophy cabinet over the years as a decent array of all sorts of victory ornaments. Frank Canellan. Now, Frank many years ago was pro down the road at Sorrento. And other great names, Michael Harwood. Now, he ran second to Ian Baker Finch in the British Open. That was probably the last time two Australians ran the Quinella in the most coveted title in the world. And I must admit, from the pros whom I've been chatting with this morning, have mentioned that this is one of their favourite one-day events. There's been a little circuit around the peninsula in the last week or so, but I know this is the one that the pros were looking forward to. Somewhat daunted originally by the weather forecast, which looked very gloomy and doomy, but it is much better than expected. It's sunny. And as always down here, there is a breeze. And the golfers all hit off at once, which is known as a shotgun start. They start at various points around the course, the idea being that they all finish roughly at the same time, which means they're all in the 19th at about the same time for a compulsory agreeable lunch. I don't know why they put the term compulsory, because I think most golfers and spectators alike love the new facilities here at Portsea. About 6 or 7 years ago, a new clubhouse went up beside the old 6th tee. A luxurious clubhouse with wonderful five-star accommodation, Mercure, the Mercure label, and lots of conferences, corporate functions. And this golf course, the holes remain the same, but it's a decent, the sequence of the holes has been rearranged, and I'm just becoming familiar with the old 7th used to be the 12th as John McCormack comes into the broadcast box. John, welcome. This is the first time I've seen you this year. We go back a long time. Now Johnny's just going to set himself up with the RPP outside broadcast equipment. We've got a wonderful view down at the I keep calling it the 12th hole, but it is now the 7th. And John and I have done something unique on this hole, but we'll save that up for a little bit later on, Glenn. And plenty of stories, and we'll be we will grab some of the players on their way through to the 8th tee after they vacate the 7th. So, Glenn, look forward to chatting a little bit more with you throughout the morning, and if you're in the area, pop down by all means to the famous Portsea Golf Links, London Bridge Road, Portsea. Back to you, Glenn, at the RPP studios in Mornington. Back here for the Legends Higgins Coatings Pro-Am here at Portsea Golf Club. And our vantage point is at the back of the 7th hole. A beautiful par 3, considered one of the finest par 3s, not only on the peninsula, but in Australia. It has a name, the 18 holes here at Portsea all have distinguishing names. This is called Glory Box. And as I join John McCormack, who's a member at Portsea Golf Club, a golfing enthusiast, John and I, along with a lot of our friends, have played heaps of golf around here. John, welcome to RPP, to a famous golf day.
And thank you very much, Neil. And what a magnificent hole it is. Now, you mentioned before, we'll mention later on in radio, we've got something in common on this hole. And will I say it or will you say it?
No, you open the batting, Johnny.
Okay, I'll open the batting. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was setting up there on the in a comp, of course. 160 out, 6-iron, cracked it straight in the hole.
Hole in one?
Hole in one on this one, yep.
With a 6-iron?
With a 6-iron. And I believe you had a crack.
Well, years before yours, on this very hole, I was all set to hit off, and with a 7-iron, and just at the last minute, the wind sprung up from the south-southwest, and I thought, oh, no, I don't think I can get there with a 7-iron. So I said, hang on, Leggy, hang on, I'm just going to change clubs. He said, what for? I said, oh, it's just the wind's kicking up. So I did, and it turned out to be a winning move, because John, like you, that 6-iron went in the hole. Now, do you know, and also, some people have hole-in-ones and they don't quite get the thrill of seeing it go in.
Yeah.
But from here, the green is slightly lower, as you can see on the telly, than the tee. So, yeah, the old blind Freddy.
Yes, well, you do see it go in. And up the top, and I thought perhaps it had rolled behind the stick because it's hard to see up the top, but no, it was definitely in the hole. One bounce straight in.
Actuaries and insurance companies have listed the odds of a hole-in-one for a reasonable player, if there's such a thing, on a reasonable course. This is 25,000 to 1.
Is it that high?
Yeah. Now, so our combined odds, plus the fact we both use 6-irons, that is €1 could buy you Europe.
Well, it probably could. And you'd have to do it on the same day, of course, in the same competition. Did happen to a pro that we had here a few years ago in the Australian Open up at Concord. Never had a hole-in-one, got it, and it was $100,000 prize money, but it went off on the Thursday and they forgot to insure it, so he got nothing.
Oh, boy.
You wouldn't feel good about that, would you?
Well, there's a hole-in-one prize today. I think it's $10,000. There is... often with the tradition of a pro-am, the long drive, the ladies' long drive, the nearest to the pin. But the hole-in-one on this 7th hole, I think we're safe to say it won't go off.
No, it's difficult.
I say that purposely to hopefully have egg on face.
Well, you've got an easily coming across too. You'd really have to draw the ball in beautifully. And today, when I got mine too, I was like, I had an Audley behind me, so it probably got me that extra carry. But...
now, with a hole-in-one, even non-golfers know there's a tradition that you have to shout the bar.
That's correct.
And a lot of golfers don't hold back when a fellow golfer gets a hole-in-one. It's not, oh, look, I'll just have a 5-ounce shandy. Well done, John, hole-in-one. They take it to the limit. They do a bit of the Eagles. And so much so that there is an optional insurance that you can take out with your annual subs to cover a hole-in-one.
Well, they do that now. The club actually had it insured. So we would probably get down here maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of them. And normally it's on the second hole, which is a short one, which is a bowl shape. So the ball tends to come in, or if you can come off the back of that little hill, it can roll up. And
yeah, the landscaping of the green and surrounds has a lot to do with the hole-in-ones here. So the second has the most hole-in-ones.
Oh, without doubt. This is probably the hardest one. This has only got a handful of names. I notice yours is there, but with mine, but there's only been about 6 or 7 on this one. So it's that's over the journey, and I'm talking 20 years since I've had those boards up, so 25 years.
John, you've been a member here a long time. You know a lot of the regulars here, and many of them are in this Legends Pro-Am today. Let's just go through some of the names of, well, some of the pros. Peter Senior defending his title from last year. Michael Harwood, who ran second to Baker Finch in a British Open. But some of the amateurs, Tim Schafer, wonderful
very good
left-hander.
golfer, and plays off probably about 7 or 8. I don't know what they've got him down here today at, but I think he's off 9. He's got him off 9.5 today. So a great golfer, beautiful striker of the ball,
and a wonderful putter in his day. His great mate Gary Evans. Now, Tim and Gary have been members or are members at Victoria Golf Club up in Melbourne. A lot of the players here have their Peninsula course, and a lot of retirees. So some of them have forfeited their Melbourne clubs and happy, understandably, to play golf here.
Gary's off, would you believe, 24.3. And I played for a C grade club championship against Gary, and we had a big Saturday night function to go to. Anyway, we got washed out at rain, but he was, I think there was 5 to go, and he was 4 up, so it didn't look like I was going to win. But Gary overtrained, and as it turned out, after 5 holes were a draw the next day, and he was carrying a nasty little headache, but he got me on the second, so he actually dropped in a birdie there and won the C grade championships off me. So yeah, no, Gary, he got it together after 4 or 5, but he was carrying a nasty headache, I can tell you.
Now, former, I'm not sure if he's former or is he still current Sorrento Football Club president?
No, he's not. No.
Gary Loophole Woodhams.
Yes, he's my current lawyer at the moment. Yes, look, he hasn't played for a while. We haven't seen much of him. He's been pretty busy up in Melbourne working, but was president of the footy club, and he's gee whiz, he's playing with Bernie Balmer.
Bernie the attorney.
Well, there's 2 lawyers that could battle it out.
And they're playing with John Wade. Now, John Wade has been on the tour for many years. He'd be in his mid-50s, which qualifies for the senior tournaments. He was likewise a member at Victoria Golf Club, and one day in the Thursday men's comp, knocked it round in 62, 10 over par. I think his handicap was +5, which meant he had to shoot at least 5 under to be square. As you can hear, we've got the outside live microphones, and they've been beautifully tuned to pick up even the whimpering of a little yellow-crested speckerel, let alone a golfer's comments on so there might be a little bit of agricultural language coming through, but it's all part of golf because it doesn't always make you happy, does it? Some of the shots.
Now I heard a helicopter coming over. I don't know if Greg Norman's ducking in for a last hit, but that could be the case. Who knows down here? You never know he'll turn up on the Seniors Pro-Am Day, and he would, of course, he'd go pretty well, wouldn't he?
He would, and I know he has played here before. Sponsored by Higgins Coatings. Now, do you know a bit about this company, John?
I do, actually. They're a huge painting company, and I purchased the paint, would you believe, built a new house, and the Higgins brothers, yeah, they certainly got me the paints, and they also do painting, but I used a local guy. I like to keep it local down here, Neil.
Yes, well, it's a wonderful part of the world, and if someone said, what's a peninsula? An aerial view of the peninsula explains it magnificently. This course, John, was founded in 1925, so it's nearly 100 years old. It's at 94 years old. And I don't think it's ever played better. It's beautifully maintained. It's adapts to the 4 seasons magnificently. And if there's a deluge, and some courses in Melbourne are flooded, the water just seeps magnificently.
It does. I've never seen it ever flood down here. It'd be unusual. Occasionally you'll get a hailstorm, and when that melts it floods a little bit, but no. And the other thing they normally don't get, although having said that, last year we got one, you normally don't get a frost because you've got water either side.
Yep.
Which the water down here in winter gets down to about 14 degrees. So normally keeps your temperature around 10. Normally doesn't get below that down here. So with having the ocean one side and a kilometre away, you've got the bay. So yeah, it's normally you don't get frost, so it's normally looking pretty good. Moment a bit dry, but we haven't seen much rain except for last night. It was the first time in probably 3 months, I believe.
Well, it was the forecast was very gloomy and daunting. However, the current weather has belied what the Weather Bureau predicted. It is sunny.
Yeah.
And it's always breezy down in this way, but not gale force. Tell me this, John. I've never seen, just in you're more up to date with the goings on at this golf club than I am. Golfers using yellow golf balls and orange golf balls. It was a fad about 30 years ago. But any particular reason?
I don't know. They've even got them upstairs where they've got the little yellow dots on them and red dots, and they look like a basketball.
Were they giveaways on the
No,
first tee?
they certainly aren't. Callaway is certainly out there making plenty of them. So I noticed a few of the guys I use them. They're easier to see, the yellow ones, I must admit.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot. The par is 71, meaning there are 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s, and of course the rest are par 4s. What do you think, John McCormack, will be the winning score for the
today?
pros?
I think the wind's going to come up. I would think 69 maybe.
2 under par. Yeah, I was thinking around that as well. So I won't jump on the fence.
There's always someone, isn't there, that just has a ripper day.
True. So you're happy with 69? I'll go 68.
Okay.
As for the amateurs, they're playing Stableford, which means they get certain points per hole, 2 points for a net par, 3 for a net birdie, 1 for a net bogey. So therefore 36 points as par. I'll go some amateur might have a day out and have 40 points.
Yeah, and I can see a couple here that might too. Gary Evans, for one, playing with 24. Hasn't played a lot of golf recently, but gee whiz, can play when he wants to. And also Bernie Barmer, Bernie the attorney, who should be coming down shortly on this hole. Or will he? Oh, he won't. But he's another one that could have a day out too. He can play, easily play to 18.
Well, we've got some RPP spotters to grab the players, the appropriate players when they vacate the 7th green, which you can see, which used to be the 12th. Then they go down what used to be the old 18th. Now this is the this is now the 8th hole, and that's where the long drive is. So that's where some of the pros will be pulling up the sleeves a little bit and having an extra practice swing and maybe a bite of the banana or some sort of sustagen.
There's young Gary Woodham's out there now, and I wonder how he's going. He's playing off the 10th now, so we can work out actually how far along we've got. So, but I do not see. No, Bernie's not with him today.
The sky is getting clearer.
It is too.
And the wind has slightly dissipated. But, can you remember your first trip to Portsea Golf Club, John?
Actually, it might go back with, I remember playing with you one day down here, and I certainly didn't have a handicap, and we're on the, which would currently be, Gary Woodham's just teeing off now. A reasonable strike of the ball. Reasonable strike there. That was on the 10th. Gee, they got him playing back too, off the back tee.
So all players, pros and amateurs, play from the same tees?
Yep.
Which are well back, okay. So should there be a course record, which is unlikely today, would a course record be recognised because the tees aren't as far back?
Oh, look, that's as back as far as they'll get him.
This looks like Alex Harris.
It is Alex Harris. And
oh, yes, distinctive, unique swing, and he looks hitting into the sun, so no sooner was the contact, the left arm goes up as a shield over the eyes. Now, signly, Alex can hear us. Alex, happy with that? Thumbs up or down? Down.
Down, no, I don't think he was happy with that. And it looks like Gary Woodham's is hitting again. And you can actually drive this.
Okay, we'll temporarily leave our coverage here because we have a cross to RPP to Glenn Hampson in the studio at Mornington for an update. And yes, so play well and truly underway. It's been underway for about an hour or so, which means most groups have played 4 or 5 holes, and so the getting into a reasonable tempo, and they look as though they're enjoying themselves. Some of the jumpers are coming off, and yes, it's very, very pleasant weather, and certainly belying the original forecast. And as station manager Brendan Telfer said to me a couple of days ago, they can get it wrong. We have regard for the Bureau of Meteorology, but it is good when they get it wrong, especially when it's in your favour. So we'll be back with our coverage a little bit later on, and I'm assured that everyone will have a good time. There goes Alex Harris now.
As he walks past, there he is, the great man.
Wonderful Peninsula golfer Alex Harris. We saw you hit off, Alex. Happy with your result?
And your playing partner, Gary Woodham's, I believe, lost first ball. Has he? Oh, okay, he's topping him.
Well, good luck on the back nine, Alex, and we'll be following your progress on the TV monitor.
Stay there.
And welcome back to the Portsea Golf Club. This is John McCormick. Just joined in with Neil. And Neil, weather, how good is it now?
It's getting better by the minute, and certainly defying the original forecast, which was very daunting rain overnight at Portsea. I set my iPhone to localise Portsea weather, and it was predicted this morning rain getting heavier, ceasing at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh, that's when the bar opens too. It's not a bad time to cease.
But as we were just saying on the television, streaming on YouTube and the RPP Facebook, which you can access now, for some wonderful shots that the RPP technical team has set up. The weather's magnificent.
It is. It is. Gee, that was close to. We had, and I'm trying to work out the group coming down now, but the ball landed behind the flag, only a metre behind, but gee, it was on the money.
Where did it end? Oh, I see.
There it is
I
there.
see it,
Just,
yes.
yeah, but it went past, but gee, it was close.
This could well be Peter Senior's group now. Peter Senior from Queensland, he'd be in his late 50s. He's won stacks of tournaments over the years, and he won this event last year, so he's defending his title. The 7th hole, 169 metres. Pin is centrally placed, and yes, we were saying before, so we might as well blow our trumpet. Both John and I have had hole-in-ones on this hole using the same club, but we weren't playing together. Now, yeah, that's Peter Senior. That's with the Argyle grey cap. Now, he's playing in a cart, understandably. He's taken 2 clubs out of the cart, a putter, of course, and I would say the other one, John, would be a sand wedge.
Now, I'm just wondering where he's ended up.
I'd say in a bunker. Now, most of these pros... Short, is it? Okay. So it means he has to get up and down for his par. A little chip on, slightly longer than the chips. He's probably about 20 yards from the green, about a cricket pitch. And he will be doing his best to get the ball to within a metre. Uphill into the wind, which is slightly favourable. I reckon he'll get it within a metre.
Here he goes, head down.
Oh, no,
gee
you wouldn't
whiz.
be happy with that. It's finished about 2.5 metres short. Didn't give it enough.
No, and it was
So
into the wind.
he's probably even money to hole the putt, and he won't be happy with himself unless he holes this putt to salvage a par 3.
Gee, I would have thought he would have gone past and spun it back with that wind. But
Now, Peter Senior, do you know why he didn't name his son Peter?
no, I don't. No, I don't.
Because he would have been Peter Senior Junior.
Cut it out.
I just thought of that. And
So his father's
Yes,
Peter Senior.
now, look, I think we.
Look at this. Not quite.
So the golfers are taking formation now. I must admit it's harder these days to identify players, particularly with caps, hats, sunglasses. In the old days,
I don't think that's Peter Senior.
I was just thinking we might have called the wrong horse.
Yeah, I think we have.
Now it can be done.
Well, they
And-
look different.
I was thinking Peter Senior seems to have grown an inch or two these days, but that
Yes.
doesn't happen in your mid-50s, does it, John?
No,
Or
no,
so-
it doesn't. He would be 60, wouldn't he? By
Yes.
Now?
Now,
Yep. I'm sorry about that. But
it's like when Greg Emmons and Sam Newman years ago asked
Oh,
to ring
yes.
Bill Collins about the Academy Award for The Unforgiven being given the movie of the year in 1993. The only problem was the production team rang Bill Collins, the race caller, and put him to air.
and he let him go too,
And
didn't
he
he?
let them go, and he
yeah.
wound them in after about 3 or 4 minutes. Greg Evans had no idea. Sam Newman adapted quickly to the situation, and they ended up having a damn good chat. So if that is Peter Senior down there, we are doing our best to identify, but I'm starting to think, now there's an example on the 12th hole, John, a yellow or a lime green golf ball.
Yeah, it's not really yellow, is it?
Yeah, it's like a sort of like a Derwent number 47 for those who can go back that far back to Derwent pencils. Remember the big
Yes, I do.
72
Yep,
pack
yep,
that
yep.
the rich kids had?
I only had a
I had Lakelands that would break as soon as you pressed them to
I
the
had to
pavement.
start me up pack 6.
They were cigarette packers, weren't they?
The little
Now,
Peter
we're
Siders
just getting
soft pack.
directions from our director here that we are crossing shortly back to the RPP studios in Wilson's Road, Mornington. Back here at the 7th green for the Higgins Coatings Portsea Golf Club Legends Pro-Am. Portsea founded in 1925, and John McCormick joining us.
Yes, and I'm just looking at the players. They're all dancing out there too. To the music. They were all dancing to the music then, but a couple of them
that's
said
it.
to
We're
quieten up.
just cog down a couple of decibels. So
Oh, so he's got a par 3 there, and we're just trying to work out our next group coming through. So if they're from the first.
yeah, 30, 40 years ago, I know some commentary friends, Sandra McKenzie, a regular on Lofty's Grooves Golf and Gallops, she commentates the golf on Fox, particularly the British tournaments and the ladies' tournaments in Asia. And so many players swing the club similarly these days, John. They're taught to swing the same way. Years ago, you could identify a player by his or her unique swing.
They all seem to have this new baseball swing, isn't it? It's like
Yes.
almost a baseball swing where they pull that club down and it looks
The
effortless,
swings
doesn't
are
it?
more cookie cut these days. So then, as we were mentioning before, throw in caps and sunglasses, and a lot of golfers dress similarly too.
yeah.
So it's not like going to the races and looking at a field, saying the Caulfield Cup or the Cox Plate, and jockey number 1 on Winks, John McCormick, has got blue with a black cap and something distinguishing, and a race book that can confirm those colours. So I must admit, and you've already guessed it, we are somewhat guessing, as a left-hander now is teeing off on the 7th, a par 3. And you heard the impact then. Let's see where this goes.
I'll be buggered.
Well, you heard it. So
Yes, well, I didn't quite.
I think he said bucket.
Yeah,
Is
you
there a
set that bucket over
Because
past
of
the
course
bunker.
all golfers, when they tee off on the first hole, have a bucket, and the bucket has sand in it.
Yes.
And that is the old replace the divots. So rather than replacing the divots, it's pouring a bit of sand out of the bucket into what was the divot hole.
Thus the call, I'll be bucket.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. You've
Over
got
to-
out of that
over to
beautifully.
you, John.
I am really lost on that one, but I'll be bucketed too. So, okay, so that one didn't make the green, unfortunately.
I must tell you about one of the rarest hole-in-ones in the history of golf. It concerns at Royal Melbourne, which you know has 2 courses, the east and the west. And funnily enough, the first of west course heads east, and the first of east heads
Goes
southwest.
east. Yep.
Now, old Doc O'Hanlon, this is going back to the 50s, John,
Right.
lived up in the Yarra Valley. And he and his wife, their big trip out was hopping in the Humber Super Snipe and driving down,
Black
I
one?
suppose,
Would have been
I
a
don't know
black,
what
wouldn't
colour it was, but it was solid as a fortress. And going down to Royal Melbourne and having a very, very agreeable lunch. They both kept no secrets that they loved to have a tipple. And the boys in the pro shop would bet whether Doc O'Hanlon and Mrs. O'Hanlon would come out of the clubhouse and tot around 3 or 4 holes. So they were, whether they knew it or not, the old Doc was betting fodder. He was a left-hander, and one Sunday after the field was well and truly out in the course, Doc and his wife totted out of the clubhouse. Clubs, please, boys, clubs, yes. Yes, Doc, yes, Doc. So it was a modest set of clubs, and he got up on the first tee of West course. Now, the 18th of East, green, is about 50, 60 metres away, almost on a right angle to the first tee of West. Doc teed up, and the boys in the pro shop again were betting whether he'd miss it, have an air swing after a long lunch.
Oh, poor
Well,
old
he
dog.
nearly missed it, but he just tipped it, and it was heading over towards the 18th green of East course. Not only did it head over the 18th green, it went through the bunker, onto the green, and you guessed it, into the hole. And the Doc couldn't see it, but everyone else did. Said, Doc, you've done something right. He said, I've had a hole in 36.
Well,
That'll
that's
do.
not bad.
That'll do.
Back to the bar.
Straight back into the clubhouse. It is considered one of the most bizarre and unique hole-in-ones in history. Doc O'Hanlon, Royal Melbourne in the late 50s.
Now, this group coming down, this may well be Roger Davis, I'm thinking. I'm just trying to work out who's in the group. Tim Elliott, Roger Davis, David French.
Now, years
Andy
ago, we
Kyle.
would have recognised Roger
Yeah, you
Davis
would.
with the +4s or the
Yep.
+2s and the Argyle socks and the moustache.
But these days, of course, he goes in the cart. And Roger would be up there, wouldn't he? Be 60.
Oh, he'd be
Five?
mid to late 60s,
Yeah.
I'd say.
He,
He's won some British Opens and wonderful player. He's had a terrific international career.
well, that certainly isn't him.
And like Stuart Ginn, one of the founders of modern day fashion. Do many of your club mates roll up in the +4s or +2s here, John?
No,
Or
haven't
you-
seen one yet.
No?
Not a one. Not a one. The problem we've got here, and just let the listeners know too, it's a shotgun start, so we're not sure if there's.
A lot of these guys, I did my training with years and years ago, but that's back before ABBA had been heard of, John. that goes back to 1973 or 74, so well over 40 years ago, and I'm sure in the next few hours we'll run into quite a few, but as we well know, shapes, all sorts of things can change.
It's amazing golfers too. Over there, look back in the 80s. You call them athletes today, and they are. They're certainly super fit. But back in the 80s and 90s, they used to carry a bit of weight with them, some of them, didn't they?
Yes, well, here's an example that Peter Senior and Craig Parry, short and burly, rotund, they are still capable and have won national championships, not seniors championships, but the Open. Now, that couldn't possibly happen in tennis, could it?
No,
on the score of fitness.
You wouldn't last one set these days.
So, for all shapes and sizes, and it's not the sort of game that you have to give away like football at a particular age. Normally, once a golfer, not many people give up golf.
No, and even the professionals, when they move into the seniors, say in the States too, if you play in the US Masters, it's still worth about $800,000, which is a lot of money. And I know Roger Davis won a US Masters, and he was just elated because he said it's the most money he's ever won.
Well,
in
yeah,
his
with
entire career. And I mean, he did win the Johnny Walker Classic, where he got $500,000 back in the 80s, I think it was. So he has won a fair amount of money over the journey. But he said once he got on that senior circuit, he couldn't believe. And who he was playing against, too. All these amazing names, you know. So he did very well, and I think Peter Senior did very well over there.
It's something the public recognises very well, too, because a lot of the people, the fans, have grown up watching these players, whether it be tennis players or, you know, say take football for example. There's that annual Ted Whitten match, isn't there, where some of the veterans get out, Dermot and to name a few, and some of them have a serious preparation leading in. Most don't. No. Yet some of the skills are still there, but normally with these golfers, they'll play for as long as they can walk.
And, you know, it's great to see they can still make a reasonable living out of it. I mean, when you see those seniors and the names that are on there, you know, from Greg Norman through to, you know, Stevie Ballesteros, all these guys used to play in it, and really, truly amazing to watch. And I enjoy watching them too. They only play 3 rounds, not 4.
That's fair enough. Yeah. And a lot of them well remember when they do get paid handsomely their formative wages as a trainee, as an apprentice, where they worked in the pro shop, often 6 days a week, cleaning the members' clubs. They had to double as a salesman, a club cleaner, running the tee, doing bookwork, and this is before computers, handling the cash register, selling clubs. You had to be adaptable. I remember my first week at Victoria Golf Club, my first ever wage, weekly wage.
Oh, let me guess.
That was where there was a little yellow pay slip, and my boss said, it was my boss who named me Lofty then, he said, Lofty, you've done a terrific week's work, but well done. Here's your pay. How do you want it, heads or tails?
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you to say you got a $10 note or something.
So memories of a modest apprentice's wages, anything more years and years later is certainly appreciated.
Were we tossing a 20-cent coin or $1?
Might have been a florin.
Oh, florin. Yeah, well, that's 25 cents, isn't it?
Now, who have we got down here on this?
It is so hard to work it out until we see a well-known face. And unfortunately, some of the well-known faces don't look well-known anymore.
Now, I must say, when Ian Baker Finch won the British Open in 1991, beating Michael Harwood, who's in this field here today, Baker Finch wore a distinctive light grey pants and a cerise or a pink shirt. You know how Tiger Woods on the last round always wears black pants, red shirt?
Red.
Now, just we better do fashions on the field coming through, and mainly men today. There's a few women playing, and we'll mention more about that later on because Portsea Golf Club has a wonderful women's representative or a great women's group who plays here, and down there on the 7th, it's black, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah.
With grey hair and grey hats, and we'll try to identify.
I think they would have thought too, it's going to be cold, so I'll wear
Yes.
black. That's what I thought too. I wore a black jumper, thinking that it's going to be freezing out here with the wind. But not as bad as it looks. Here's one of these remote controls, you know, they've got the little remote controls, they go up the hill. I've seen many people put
this
them
is
in
the
a bunker.
buggy. This is the buggy that you run by the remote.
Yep.
And it can stop, start, go left and right, and,
Yep.
and accelerate. And do they always obey their master though?
No, they don't. Look, I've got rid of my little switch for mine. I've put it in the bunker. And Sid, how are you going? Sid's just come off the 9th hole. How are you going? You got a par. So today, are you 1 or 2 up? No, Sid's not 1 or 2 up. So okay, we might be able to get him on the camera over there. But any good scores in your group? Sorry. Struggling. Okay, then. Well, that's the end of your interview. You're gone. See you. Thanks for coming.
Sid Thompson.
Sid Thompson, a
wonderful
legend at Portsea. Absolute legend.
And could he tell some stories of the progress and history of this famous golf club?
Well, they call him 180 straighty down here, and there's a reason for that. He hits a 180, and they're straight. Today he's 280 straighty. Okay.
Now looking at our TV monitor up on the 7th hole, which is the $10,000 hole-in-one. And well, from what we've seen so far, John, not many balls have even reached the green in one, let alone a hole-in-one.
No, they should have nearest the
So-
green. That sounded good.
It did sound good, and that's from the adjacent 10th tee, which is only about 10 metres from where we are. We're at the back of the 7th green. The par 3, which is 169 metres.
Degrees too, it would be.
Slightly downhill, but into a gentle breeze. So most of the pros would be hitting about a 5 or a 6 iron, I would imagine, as Johnny's scorecard goes crashing out of the van.
Just
Yes,
caught it.
Don't
on the
forget to
guitar.
sign it either.
That's true. You can lose the comp. I want to work out who's up there.
Come on, baby. Looks good. Actually, I like this.
I like the comment there. Come on, baby. That might be a reload. It'd be nice if the $10,000 went off, wouldn't it?
Would be wonderful. It's a good day's work, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's been some heartbreak stories about golfers having hole-in-ones on golf days, but on the wrong hole, if there's
Yeah.
such a thing.
Yep,
The hole that wasn't meant to be the $10,000 prize.
Can I ask you a question? Now, you'd know
Of
this.
course.
If an amateur wins it, do they get to keep the 10 grand these days?
No,
They don't.
they don't. It would jeopardise their amateur status, and they'd be unlikely to turn pro. No, it's for professionals only. But for the amateur players, it'd be the kudos, the bragging rights, and I'm sure there'd be some trophy that would
Yep.
be in danger there.
I know at
Amateur
Portsea
status.
they mount the ball for you and put you in their little book, an honour board, so it's something.
Now, I'd say just from this distance that the
That looked all right.
fella
to me.
who hit off just then is one of the pros in the group. Some of these groups have 2 pros in them.
Yep.
But
They've changed the list around on us.
it is tricky calling the golf when they don't run in the sequence of what the program adds, looking at a distance. But we'll do our best. But one thing we do know for sure is that the weather is magnificent.
It is down here.
The wind is softening, and everyone is in for a good day.
Swinging around too. It looks like it's coming from the west now. Oh no, straightening up again nicely. But
And a funny thing on the peninsula, particularly towards the tip of the peninsula, given that it's a crescent shape, is to recognise which way is north, which way Melbourne is, which way... I was staying at a friend's at St Andrews, Ryback Beach, yesterday, and the old geographical competition, or not competition, which way do you think King Island is, and which way is Tassie, and which way is Apollo Bay? And it's, some parts of the world, or not the world, you know which way is north because you might be looking up Glenfrey Road or South Road or something like that. But I've seen you do this, John, in the famous Sorrento Hotel out on the front deck. Which way's Melbourne? And a lot of people point towards, say, the Dandenongs, think that's due north, where it's normally another 45 to 90 degrees further to the left.
over Mud Island.
Yes.
You can see it pop up. Yeah.
How long have you been living down on the peninsula?
Oh, I probably came down permanently in about 99.
Does that make you a local now?
No,
You've done
no.
your 20 years?
No, 20 years won't make me a local. My children they were born here, so that makes them local. They went to the local school up at St Joey's there. But no, I came down, built the boathouse in Blairgowrie and ran that for a few years.
Near the Loop?
That's right, opposite Little Moody's little motel there. And no, it was good. Worked that for a while. Let me tell you, there's no joy in running a motel. It's
Too many beds to make?
well, a lot of people ring that doorbell at 2 in the morning, not knowing that you're going to do the breakfast at 6. So not a lot of sleep. But anyway, look, it was good. It was good, and that's what started us down there. We decided to stay. And I'm glad we did because it's, Sorrento's got a lot to offer down here with the cinemas. There's 3 cinemas there, the shopping centre. It's getting busier and busier. My pet hates summer because over the January period.
Now, you're not an unwelcoming fella, but there is the annual invasion of
it is an invasion. You can't even get the main street, or if you're running slightly late for golf, you're not going to make it because you can't get through any of the roads. You can't get down, to Pean Road or Melbourne Road because it's,
I know.
200 deep in cars.
I have lived down here on and off over the years. I love the place. I've had a permanent love affair with not only this golf course but the Mornington Peninsula since I was a little boy, because Grandma and Grandpa retired to Rye in 1965. So every holidays, whether it be summer, Easter, winter holidays, was down to Whitecliffs Road, Rye.
Oh, yeah, good
And
spot
my
too.
first game of golf was at this very golf course in about 1968. I think I had about 40 for 5 holes, but loved it.
Hey, I'd be happy with
And
that
then
today.
quickly became a junior member, I think, for the thumping sum of $6 a year.
Yep.
Would that get you 2 coffees in the luxury clubhouse these
I think
days?
when I joined, and excuse me for being so husky, when I joined, I think it was about $200, I think, for a full membership. And, gee whiz, it's a lot more than that now.
Then what really took this famous course to another dimension was the famous Portsea Pro-Am.
Oh, wasn't that a big day?
Founded in 1976 when it was sponsored by a local company called Rattray and Walker. I think
Our
they're
local,
builders.
our local hardware shop down at Rye.
So they were the sole sponsors, and there was no large clubhouse then. There was a little clubhouse the
green.
size of a beach box down the beach. It had one fridge where you'd take your bottle of beer and you put your name on it, McCormack, whether it be an Abbott's Lager or a Vic Bitter, and you would be your own barman. You could bring a packet of chips if you wanted to. And then the Portsea Pro-Am, they erected well, it wasn't a marquee, it was a tent. And the whole day, the inaugural day was much bigger than they expected.
Yep.
It was on the 2nd of January. So for about the next 40 years, the 2nd of January, golfers came from near and far for the wonderful Portsea Pro-Am. And I think Peter Thompson, who has loved this place, he had a holiday house beside the old 15th of Par
That's
3
right, did too. Yep.
on London Bridge Road. He said of this course in the 70s, when he wrote the foreword for a book on the history of Portsea Golf Club, said it has greens that have no superiors in the state of Victoria. Well, it might have been slightly biased, but the greens here are wonderful. They're not a brilliant lime green like some greens. They're more a darker, like a not British racing green, but a slightly darker.
And they're not huge either. They're very small green.
That's true, and the bunkering is wonderful. Great colour of the soil.
Well, what they do here, which is for me annoying, not for you, of course, but for me, it's really just the dirt from around the course, which is a mixture of dirt and sand. So they're very light. It's not a heavy sand. So when you swing, if you swing hard, that ball could go anywhere. So it's really tricky. You've really got to stick your feet in firm and try and find out how deep or how shallow, because it blows out fairly quickly. So very, very tough. Very, very tough.
John, we've just had a call from one of our viewers enjoying the coverage. What is the reason these days where so many golfers on the green putt with the flag stick still in the hole, unattended? This is something
Well, it's
new.
a new rule that came in this year, and you can actually putt it up to the stick. Now, I think if you've hit the ball firm and strong, you know, it hits the, there goes the bell, it will stop the ball and go in the hole, but it also it can deflect.
What if it deflects?
Yeah, that's what I'd be worried about. I'd want it out.
Because for years and years, a golfer putting had the option of the flag being taken out completely, which was the norm, or someone, whether it be the caddy or a fellow player, to man the pin or hold the pin, meaning the golfer, usually for a longer putt, had more of a target. And if the ball looked like going close to the hole, the flag would be quickly removed from the hole, and then the result was known.
They'd take it out. Geez, there's a few helicopters around buzzing in.
Now, the term shotgun start, have you ever played in a shotgun day where, in fact, it was a shotgun that...
I have in the country, up at some of those border clubs. They actually do shoot the gun off.
But now, normally it's a cowbell or something.
Oh,
that
they don't even do that.
is
It's
loud enough.
yeah.
So I wonder if the term will ever get changed. What time are we playing, Johnny? Well, it's a cowbell start.
No. It's a bit like at the footy this year. When are they going to play rock, scissors, and that's just stupid. Can't we toss a coin?
Now, you're unashamedly biased to your beloved Sorrento Football Club.
Of course, yes.
And we had ex officio President Gary Woodhams just going through before. How's Sorrento footy team looking?
Looking pretty good. We were a bit stiff last year in the grand final. Went down by under a goal, but I won't make any comments on that. There was a couple of blokes playing that probably shouldn't have. But I guess when you get reported and you get off, I mean, that's how it works, I guess, in the league system.
Is the cricket team, does it have just as strong a following?
Yes, it does. It's they're going pretty well too. So we're having a good season. I think this year with the football, we're going to have a ripper season, and we've got a new ruckman, so he's about 6'8". So that could help because we were always a bit short in the ruck department. So I think that's looking good. I think we are looking good this year.
Now, I notice we're looking straight towards the 7th green, and there's a group about to tee off, and our special effects microphone, which has been dexterously attended to and wired by the RPP technical team, who have done a wonderful job. They were here before first light this morning.
Are they? And there's a big
Getting
crew
all
too.
the wires and the boom mics and the televisions and the YouTube organised, and you've done a lot of work from this RPP outside broadcast unit, John. I don't think I've ever seen so much technical gear and so many. We're surrounded by experts.
Well, they are experts too. And the good thing is too, if you're interested in perhaps getting involved in this sort of industry, you can give RPP a call, and and that's 59751234, and you can come up and learn all this technology. We don't charge you. We're happy to do it. I wonder if that's Peter Senior flying in now. It could be. He sold his business.
Was he in cash converters?
He's on the tee now. There we go. He was. There he goes.
Yes, that's Peter Senior.
Yeah, that's pick that swing. Yeah.
Now let's see where the ball goes. Even money, the green.
Oh, he's short. Oh, he's just got on. Oh, it's rolled up.
Surprisingly well.
He has hit that well, hasn't he?
It looked as though it was going to pull up short. It landed just, as you saw, short of the green.
Sort of hitting into the wind a bit. It's coming across, but he's hit into the wind a little bit.
He's got about a 4 metre putt for a birdie. So he's probably one chance in two of making his birdie. So Peter Senior is on the 7th hole. He teed off first, being defending his title. So he teed off on the first when the cowbell or the shotgun went off
The
at
shotgun.
8:30. He's now on the 7th. Now, what time of day do we have, John? Have you got your
Yes, I
your
have. It's,
Boulevard Accutron on?
it's quarter past the hour of 10, 16, 17 minutes
Quarter past
Yep.
10. Okay, so it means they're going to about Peter
slow.
Senior's 7th, 8th hole, quarter past 10. It's looking like a 4.5 hour round, which, well,
Yeah, I hope he doesn't hit that mic. It's awfully close. Where did that one go? Missed it.
for every 100 hole-in-ones you get, there is one of those hundreds where the ball's had a double dip, where the ball has rolled past the hole
Oh,
and
and
missed
rolls,
it.
but- yep.
And on this hole, there was a classic one in summertime. The ball wouldn't have gone in first time across the green because it was going too fast. It went over the green, over the back of the green, did a 180,
Yep.
came back the way it started, a lot slower this time, and you guessed it, straight
Straight
in,
in.
second
Gee
shot.
whiz.
Oh, not second shot, but second attempt. Some spectators.
Cruising through. And
gonna
of course, it's free to come down today. So if you'd like to come down and watch some fantastic players of our generation play. Now, would Peter Senior still be using the long stick putter, do you think?
Don't think so. I think they were banned, weren't they?
I think if you don't ground them
Or
against
there was
your chest.
an amended rule
Yeah.
to the but he was one of the pioneers
Mm.
of the long shaft putter. And I remember first seeing Peter Senior in the mid-70s when I was a trainee at Victoria Golf Club. He came down, he was only 18 or 19, and a fellow trainee mate of mine said, "You've got to see this senior guy play. He's only about 5'6", and he hits the ball that hard that when at impact, at the moment of contact, both feet are off the ground."
Kidding.
And I couldn't believe it. I saw it. And his brother Jeff, who was a damn good player, we don't hear so much of Jeff these days, but Peter Senior would launch himself at impact. And he, again, proves, like Craig Parry and remember the Walrus over in America, Craig
Yeah.
Stadler?
Yeah,
That you don't have to be in footballer's shape as such, or a graduation of the gym to be a good golfer. And as
He hasn't changed really in his body shape. He looks the same, doesn't he?
you think all that walking a course every day. I have a good mate, Norm Cleveland, who's a regular on my show from Adelaide. Norm plays 4 days a week at Kionga, which is the Adelaide's best, and he walks, no carts for Norm, and he walks briskly. And he believes if a course is, say, 6,500 metres around, add on another 50% for the traipsing between holes and the traversing and the up and downs on the green.
Well, that's a nice shot. If it kicks, and it is, look at this. That's going to go close.
Oh, that could...
Ooh, and it's in. I think
no,
if
it's
they,
not in. No.
I think if they lift
Oh,
that
you mean?
stick,
Oh, of course. That was done to acknowledge our comments before. So that ball is resting on the pin. So if the
I
pin
reckon
is
it
gently
is.
removed with the care of a brain surgeon or a
And it
careful
would be,
dentist,
'cause I've
and the
seen-
ball hits the bottom of the cup.
I played golf at Waverley with Peter Donegan, and he's hit the ball, and it was a wet day, and it was only a small par three, I can't remember which one, and it's plugged in the back of the hole. And I said, I'm pretty sure if you ease up that stick and bump it, and it drops, it's a hole in one. Well, as he's pulled it up, he's shot it flying.
Oh.
So he's missed
Yeah,
it.
with the utmost of care.
But, not probably a quarter of the ball was wedged into the back of the hole.
Now, viewers shortly will see Peter Senior putting for his birdie on the 7th hole here. He started on the first, defending his title. That gave him the honour of...
No, he wasn't, and there was just past it, that little putt.
Now, the question is, will Peter Senior get his birdie here? And if so, what score? We'll find out when he vacates the 7th green. So
I
he's
am quite surprised. They're all leaving the flag stick in.
You wouldn't have seen that 5 years ago.
You would have seen it too.
And the rules of golf don't change very often. You know, I would say with AFL, there's always a new rule, isn't there? Something to do with players here and circles and squares and diamonds.
I believe there's a new rule with dropping as well. You don't have to hold it above your head.
Knee high.
Yeah, knee high.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because... So what are we doing here?
He took responsibility for Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod. And you know what is? He didn't mention the drugs that he was taking, but you know, A-Rod, I fixed him and all that sort of shit. It was very funny. He phoned me. You had to phone him every night. He would talk to you. You know, he came to my house one day and he walks in. I've got one of the mate from England. Probably, but he's a mate. That's what they do. Has to go. Has to go. Building a team. Only team.
Good on
And-
you, Glenn. Yes, as you cross, Johnny's with me in the RPP outside broadcast van, and Peter Senior, last year's winner, defending his title, has narrowly missed a birdie putt on the 7th hole. And John, the great news for people flocking down here, the weather is improving every
Unbelievable.
minute.
Well, actually, I wore a jumper thinking that, you know, being a member down here, when this wind kicks up and the cloud comes in, it gets very, very cold. But I tell you what, it's warm. It is warm, so if you're thinking of coming down, it's really not too bad at all. Sun's out, and it's starting to be a magnificent day.
Play's been underway an hour and 3/4 or so, and most players have played 7 holes or so. And yes, the weather is just improving all the time. The idea with a shotgun start, or we were saying before with television commitments, John, that seldom do you hear the blast of a shotgun.
No, you don't. You don't hear the boom. I was saying before, I've been
It's
to
more a
them.
cowbell or something, isn't it?
Oh, well, I've been to them up on the Murray, and they do shoot the gun off. They go pop, and you hear it, and away you go. But I was going to try and catch up with Peter Senior. I'm building a house at the moment, Neil, and I was just wondering if his cash converters could. I need a few more bucks, whether or not he'd be able to just spot me a few dollars. But I believe he sold it, so he said, "No, I've sold that now, so I can't help you out." But normally he would.
And a big game fisherman too, as a lot of Queenslanders were. And so many good Australian golfers have come from Queensland. There has been a few theories because the weather is
They get out
better
and
all
play.
year round. And some wonderful coaches and junior golf programs are outstanding these days.
And some magnificent. If you like playing golf around the beaches, like say Portsea is one of the few that have got a beach around them, and views. I mean, Queensland's got some magnificent golf courses on the water.
You would have heard of the famous Monterey Peninsula in California.
Absolutely. Good for wine, and Clint Eastwood, who was the mayor, of course, of Monterey.
Some wonderful golf courses.
Pebble
Pebble
Beach.
Beach, Spyglass.
Yep.
Yet even the die-hard Americans who come from Monterey Peninsula come to the Mornington Peninsula and see courses like this here at Portsea and the National and Moona Links and Cape Shank and Sorrento. Acknowledge that this is some of the best golf courses
without a doubt.
in the world. The undulations, the terrain, the soil, which we've explained, a front beach and an ocean within
Very rare.
a mile of each
yeah,
other.
Very rare. And if you go to Monterey too, you've got probably 8 golf courses, and then there's probably something like, I believe, about 35, 40 wineries. Come down the peninsula, we've got 122 wineries, and we've got 18 or 19 golf courses. So it's just remarkable what we've got here, and it's becoming in the top 10 destinations in the world to come and see if you're in Melbourne.
And Portsea, like a lot of the courses down here, has wonderful, affordable accommodation. Now, Glenn, back in the studio, Johnny and I have been playing at this wonderful course for many, many decades. And the par for the course is 71. John believes 69, 2 under
Yep,
par
I'll
will
put my
win.
money on
The
69.
pros section, I'm one beneath that at 68. And for what it's worth, the amateurs playing Stableford today, we agree that about 40 points
Yeah,
will
40
win
will
the
get on
amateur
there.
events.
It's a bit of
We
win.
don't think the hole-in-one will go off, but we're hoping to be proven wrong.
Wouldn't that be right? Wouldn't that be
someone
great?
will walk away with a $10,000. That's good for one stroke of the golf ball, isn't it?
I would mind earning that for about, 5 seconds work. Peter Lonard's in the next group, and with David Armstrong.
Well, they're two wonderful players. Peter Lonard from New South Wales, he's won heaps of tournaments and a self-confessed petrol head.
Is he really?
Bathurst 500 at Mount Panorama, he'd be first there and last home.
Well, I noticed in the car park there was a Ford GT HO Phase 3 with New South Wales plates. That's probably his. He probably takes it for a run.
For sure.
Probably take it for a run. That's worth about $1 million these days, those cars. And a lot of camper vans. Now, the boys must come down in camper vans.
Yeah, mobile homes, because there's been a seniors circuit on the peninsula the last few days.
Yep,
So-
and I think from here they go to Growling Frog and then move up through up towards the Murray.
Not a bad existence, is it?
Oh,
And they're all good mates,
Yeah.
and they all play even though they're trying their best. It's not. Oh, how can I put it? It's not club throwing, stomping sort of stuff. There's a wonderful sense of camaraderie that a lot of the youngies have missed out on or don't care for. These guys have known each other a long time. They've often travelled together. They've often roomed together.
Yep.
Helped each other with their golf. And
And it's not for the money. I mean, really, the prize money's, a few thousand. I mean, from what I hear, it goes over the bar.
now, we're biting into Glenn Hampson's good show because he plays some wonderful music. So, Glenn,
worth any money?
Yeah, all of them paid something.
Really?
Pro-Ams. One was the Western Australian Open at Joondalup?
Joondalup?
And then the other two were Pro-Ams.
Wow, and you got something for every single one of them. How good
Well,
is
so
that? I've
you get
never
one
had
here.
anything.
I got a set of clubs, sold it for like $800.
$500.
70. Then I
170.
came home and in that Q school I was telling you about, I made two in the
the
first
breeze.
stage.
Sort of breeze is coming
First round,
across
third round.
and a little bit into
Stop.
it.
No. Nine. But
And we can win this 10,000 too, eh?
Yeah.
By the way.
Sorry?
we got stretched on the day.
Pay for the trip here.
Yeah, that's right.
Huh?
There's a nice thought.
Driver 220 for the first 2 days. Popped me up a little bit.
Oh, yes.
That's not going to win you 10 grand.
Well, that was a bit quick. And a bit... Keep going.
Yeah, straight cross.
Oh, man. What a day.
Straight cross downhill. About 170 yards total.
This has a chance.
You think that'd be pushing it back? There it comes. Oh, you just totally flushed it.
It's a bit large, but
Did
I
that
was worried
go-
about getting there.
Is that in the pot or just...
No, it's pulled up
Short, yeah.
Yeah, what club here?
5 foot.
It's a rescue at the most.
Just keep. I thought I was hitting into it a bit.
Yeah.
Hurting a little. I didn't give you much lead.
And a welcome back on the RPPFM television. You can get that broadcast right across Australia if you want. Did you know that, Neil? Right across.
I did, courtesy of the RPP technical team, and it's on YouTube and the RPP Facebook self-explanatory instructions how to view the goings-on from the Higgins Coatings. There's a good name when it comes to painting. Legends, Portsea, Pro-Am. And John, we're at the back of, for those of you who have just joined us, the back of the famous 7th hole, one of the gems of par 3s on the peninsula in Australia.
And we've got Gregory Carroll coming down and Perry Parker. And at this stage, hear that whack? Now that is off the tee. Now the texts were telling me they got the longest lead I've ever seen on a microphone going up there. It must be 400 metres.
Well, it's 169 metres. This
Yeah, well, they weren't allowed to put it on the fairway, of course.
So the thing with live sound effect mics is any sort of noise can infiltrate through the system, and golfers often give quick comments on the outcome of their shots, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So they've got to be careful up there. I think
there'll be
they
a little
switch
bit
it
of
off.
agricultural language heard.
Or if we got one of the boys going, we might have that. There we go.
You can get it any old how.
Matter of fact, I'll have it in about an hour.
The idea of a shotgun start is so that all players tee off at the same time and supposedly meant to finish at the same time. John and I calculate it's about a 4.5 hour round today, which is probably about par for the course with 4 players in each group. And so players tee off at various points of the course. In fact, every hole. Some players, some groups may have 2 per hole.
Like the first hole, they've had 2. And also the third, which is a par 5, which you can afford to do that.
Now, just been handed the weather forecast. from the satellite. And at the moment, here at Portsea, it's defying yesterday's forecast for today. It's okay. It's just getting a little bit cloudy. But golf is a game established by the Scots. So, okay, rain, heel, sheen. And they will torrent the burns and windy, and it can get windy in Scotland.
Well, it can. And of
So
course,
it's a game for the four seasons.
yep. And it was never designed for that.
Now, just looking down at this group, that looks like Tim Schafer.
It certainly does.
Now, I've known Tim's now 66. I've known him since he was 9, and we've played a lot of golf together. Oh, yes, that's
Nice shot too. Look at this. Come on, spin in.
Yes, Tim's been a member here for a long, long time. He's been playing golf for 55 years. Left-hander, and he's been a wonderful putter, a great pressure putter, Tim. And he's resides or has a nice holiday house only a short par 3 from the gateway to the entrance of Portsea Golf Club. And Tim is an anti-cart man. He's a pull the buggy.
Yep, and that's what he's doing now.
And
you would think now he's entitled to get one with a little motor on it, a little buggy, you know, those little electric ones.
Tim loves to defy normality. And buggies on the green, that's acceptable these days?
I think with the wide wheels they are. Not the skinny
we'll
ones.
see if we can get an update on from Tim. There we go. Which side of the pin? Now, Johnny, we're busy where we're playing two hands here for the television coverage and regular updates to Glenn Hampson back at the RPP Mornington Studios in Wilsons Road.
I wonder if Glenn does requests.
Musical requests?
Musical, yeah.
Well, wouldn't what do you have in mind? What's
I don't know. I was
song
trying
are
to think.
you,
I was trying to think of something
craving?
to do with golf, but yeah. Who'd know? He might honour us with a request later on.
Now, Tim being a left-hander, as is his brother Rodney, who I think is in the group behind, left-handers are not as prevalent in golf as they are in tennis and cricket. For every 20 golfers, normally one is left-handed. Fewer for women, actually. I don't know why. Perhaps because ladies' left-hand clubs were harder to get.
I have a theory on that. That's what I think, and I think when you're a young kid, you know, those old clubs would be lying around. They'd all be right-handed.
Yes.
So, and I think everyone just picked them up as a kid that way.
Not many sporting implements have to be left-handed. I mean, you don't have a left-handed tennis racket or a left-handed cricket bat or a left-handed javelin. But there is another sport where being left-handed, a specific sporting implement has to be used. You know what sport that is, Johnny?
Well, I was told I've got a left-handed screwdriver, but but I think the builders were pulling my leg there.
You drink a left-handed screwdriver. Hockey.
Really? I thought they'd be
Hockey
the same stick.
No, left-handed hockey stick.
Now, I'm following this. It's going to drift. But he's going to get the par, so at least he's got the par. So well done, Tim. Glenn, thank you very much for that, mate. Do you do requests up there for us? Oh, good. We got no, we're not. No, we meant music because we've been listening into the music as we go through. So on our breaks, and we thought we're sitting here and we're trying to find something that'd be apt for the golf, but it doesn't come to mind to me. The heat is on, but it's not really.
Bing Crosby straight down the middle. Now, I'm not sure if the RPP
I haven't even heard
golden
of that.
vault of sound.
Glenn, have you heard of that? Bing Crosby straight down the middle.
You know what? I'm going to.
Oh, don't you
I
dare.
reckon he can find it with the wonders of Shazam and Google and Spotify.
Oh, don't.
Bing Crosby, the very last words the crooner mumbled was after playing 18 holes in Spain.
Yeah.
At the age of 76, his doctor warned him because of a faulty heart. 9 holes only, Bing. 9 holes. But he was having such an... That'll do, Glenn. Yeah, that'll do. But we'll just have that on standby. We're seeing one of the Portsea stalwart amateurs, Tim Schaefer, doing the right thing. He wasn't even in the bunker, but now he's just attending to some loose debris in the bunker. That's a sign of a good clubman.
He's a good clubman.
And he's a left-hander. So, Glenn, the groups have... they're about halfway round. They've done about 9 holes, and they've been in action for about 2 hours, 10 minutes. So it's looking like the clubhouse, the 19th, as you suggested, won't be hit upon until about 1 o'clock or a bit after 1 o'clock. But it's a magnificent place, Portsea. The weather at the moment is defying the original prediction. It's
Sunny.
sunny, non-threatening clouds, and it's always breezy down this way, but it's very pleasant. And I would say the club, the players and officials would be rapt, and the broadcast team here doing a wonderful job with the detailed outside broadcast with boom, sound effect microphones, all sorts of television screens, presenting a feed to YouTube and the RPP Facebook, and with monitoring the weather.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the weather now, and I think the sunshine ain't no sunshine. Hey, you might have to play that one soon because it's certainly looking like there's a massive storm coming
Yeah,
in.
Bill Withers, you can lean on me, John. You can
Yeah, very this is going to go on.
Do you
all
know
day
about
now.
Bill Withers? And I know.
No, I know.
42 I knows.
Truly.
42, yeah. I did that at a trivia night once, and everyone started going, I know.
We used to cover that, and we must just. No. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Glenn
16,
Hansen plays more
17.
music more often.
Well, that bloke knows a bit.
Wonderful work, Glenn.
14. Hang on, I think he has another crack later on too, Glenn.
Maybe it was with the greatest hits. Glenn, back to your award-winning great sounds at RPP, and we'll look forward to our next cross.
Straight down the middle. RPP FM.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I hope we're not on. And here we go again. So we're back on the TV now. So we're jumping from cross to cross. Geez, that's a good screen up there. We're just saying before there could be a bit of rain coming in, and that's a bit of a concern to everybody, I think. And hopefully it'll go over us. But the air's starting to chill up, and the map, gee whiz, I'm just looking at that. It's going to hit us. Bernie Balmer's just sailed by, and it's good to see Bernie, of course, going up. And Wilbur's snuck in too, Wilbur Wild. We are bit of rain coming your way, Wilbur. You'll enjoy it. See if they can get you an umbrella. So, Doc, good to see you, Doc. One of the many doctors here that are a member of this club. And coming down on the 8th again, of course. Yes, very slow. Geez, this wind is picking up too. Don't like the feel of this. Can we lock this all up? What happens to the cameras? We're just questioning with this storm, and it does not look good on that screen. I've got to tell you, it just does not look good at all. You know when it's got yellow and black, does that mean they follow the Tigers, or it's going to be pretty heavy? I think it's going to be heavy now, somehow. I think it's just going to be very heavy. Gee, that's a nice angle shot there on the raised tee here at Portsea. 10 grand if you can lob this in the hole. Easy money. Easy money.
Did you know, John, that Portsea Golf Club is one of the oldest clubs on the Mornington Peninsula, along with Sorrento Golf Club, and they are considered on the peninsula last cabs off the rank as far as being
The end of the road.
closest to the end of the road. And
Sure.
Portsea was founded in 1925, so it's at about 94 years ago, and 9 holes. Then there was an extension, one more hole, 10 holes.
10. I thought it went to 14.
And then
at
it
one
went to
stage.
12,
Oh,
and
12,
then
yep.
in 1965, when Lightfingers won the Cup, Portsea was extended to 18 holes. And then it really gained its popularity with more players and a clubhouse with live-in
Facilities, yep.
live-in management. It was the Jorgensen family originally in the 70s. And boy, you've been coming down here a long time, John, and you've
Yep.
seen new clubhouses, subtle changes to the holes, and this is what has put it into one of the top 50 golf courses in the country.
Which is fantastic, and it's had a lot of changes over the years, and I think with the new clubhouse up on top of the hill, and it accommodates around about 26 rooms. I think it's 30, actually 30 rooms. So if you want to come down and stay and play, it's reasonably cheap. I think the rates are around about 160 a night.
And a damn good breakfast in the morning too.
Oh, ripper
And
breakfast.
newspapers and a great view looking towards the front beach, towards over Dalgany, which
Yep.
is a classic Portsea building.
We came close to buying that, and that was
When you
going to be
say
our
we,
club.
we
The club. The club. We were looking at buying it, and I think at the time there was a bit of a recession going on in the 90s, and it was about $2.5 million, but there was 10 acres in there. Now, what would 10 acres be worth in Portsea? Geez, I'd hate to think. But it was one of those things. We just couldn't quite raise the money. And anyway, we didn't get it. But lucky enough, and going back to, we didn't own 6 of these holes. They're owned by the government or by the Army. And Jeff Kennett sold them to us probably about 12 years ago. So,
Is that right?
yeah, so the one's running down, which will be the... there was 4 holes, so looking at this, it'll be the 5th, 6th, 7th. That was all belong to the Army base over there. So, and we had it on lease.
I remember as a young teenager, I was fortunate to be a member of Kingston Heath, and one of the great sandbelt clubs of Australia. And my annual subs were $40 a year for full rights. A lot of junior members had a restricted basis, but at Kingston Heath, a junior member had full rights, so it was the best $40 ever. And I was a member here as well. So I played junior pennant for Portsea on Saturday, and Sunday afternoon, Peninsula pennant down here. And Tony Clark, the late Tony Clark was pennant captain. So the team, the league, you could imagine all these courses: John Sorrento, Rosebud, Carrington Park, Mornington, Flinders.
Flinders, great course too.
And there was the Army. Now, the Army barracks then through the quarantine area, which now you can go through, but for decades and decades there was a sentry there, wasn't
That's
there?
right, there
It was
was too.
restricted area. But if you were playing the Army and they were hosts, after 18 holes, you'd go to the officers' mess. And I was only 14 or 15. So it was a wonderful introduction to some of the foods and beverages that over 18s were meant
Did
to
you come
enjoy.
out a mess or not?
A mess in the mess.
Had to ask that. Now, I notice your name's up on the board. Now, you won, was it the amateur here?
You must have been looking at the Portsea Golf Club Junior Club Champion.
Yep.
Which was yours truly in 1971. I forget the other guy's name.
Yeah. Oh, well, you never remember who comes second, do you really? But that's a great effort. Look, I've tried very, very hard. I was talking to Ian Johnson, who's a member here, and I said, we should get a board put up on where all the honour boards are, and there's hundreds of honour boards up there for all the people that haven't got their name on the board. And there was only 6 of us, so we were going to put a very small board up there. And anyway, it sort of fell away when I got my hole in one. I got up there, so... But
That's a good idea. That could catch on.
they
couldn't
could,
it?
yeah. Well, they could. I mean, everyone's got their name up there.
It's a bit like hands up, everyone who always refuses to put your hands up. You know,
Well, there
it's-
you go. Well, that's me. I'm not putting my hand
Now
up to
let's
that.
see what sort of action we've got down here on the 7th green. It's a wonderful junction here because it is the central point and it's close to the clubhouse. And since I've been here last, John, there's a wonderful halfway house. It does good trading with
Oh, it does.
food and beverage. And who are you gesticulating
I'm just
to?
waving to Gary there.
Oh,
Gary's,
Gary Evans, of course. Possibly Mornington Peninsula's finest opera singer.
Oh, what a voice. What a voice. And he might give us a couple
He
of...
might give us a Solomir or I struck a bogey or...
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the
Beautiful
Pavarotti of the peninsula.
And they must have all this... I was just looking at him. He wasn't really due through... Gary really wasn't due through for a while. But anyway, here he is. So that's good. So he's the last of the people off the first tee.
Well, the groups aren't always in accordance with the form guide or the draw sheet. So John and I are having a little bit of a guessing game as to who's that behind the VYIs or who's that underneath the hat. And
I think he's playing with Rodney Schaefer as well. So
yes, I can recognise Rodney Schaefer, Tim's younger brother, who, like Tim, is a left-hander and a chronic St Kilda Football Club tragic.
that is a tragedy
He
itself.
rides each kick and bump with the utmost of emotion. And
He's
we'll
had
see
a
if we-
tragic life then, really. Since 66, it hasn't been good,
Yeah,
has
he's
it?
had to wait since 66.
Oh, that's
and as some people say, I know we have a lot of football fans watching. St Kilda has won their only flag in 1966, and Kevin Cowboy Neal kicked 5 of the 8 goals that day. Barry Breen kicked 1 hapless point that 9 times out of 10 would have gone out of bounds. Now, at sportsmen's nights and general talk about that, oh, Barry Breen's match-winning point, Cowboy Neal says, well, hang on, you know, I
Yeah, I
kicked
don't
5 of
blame
those 8 goals.
Yep.
And Des Tuddenham, who captained Collingwood for many years, and that year could have bounced the ball another 2 times and easily kicked a goal, which meant St Kilda today would still be maidens.
Isn't it funny, too, when Collingwood played St Kilda in the grand final, for the want of Milne going in instead of perhaps holding back, the goal would have gone through,
Yep.
or he would have marked, kicked the goal, and they would have got up again and done Collingwood again by a bloody point. But it wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. It was very close. They were stiff.
The rub of the green or the lie of the land.
Oh, and
was
if that had
Stephen
have gone another 5 minutes, St Kilda would have won by 3 or 4 goals, I think. Hey, footy question. In 1990, of course, Collingwood broke the drought and won their flag. Now, for Essendon, who kicked the 5 goals? Who kicked 5 goals, I mean?
What, Roger Merritt?
No, Essendon.
Oh, Essendon? Don't know.
No, Essendon.
Oh,
That's all they kicked, 5 goals.
Oh, okay.
They
Sorry.
always stick it up us because they won by 87 points. I just want to make it very clear. They only kicked 5 in a grand final.
Now, who's
There
this
you go.
putting on the 7th for a birdie?
I would say it's Daryl Purchase. Now, they've also got Dennis Brosner in that group too. Brosner clubs, I would imagine.
Dennis Brosnan. Brosnan clubs
Brosnan.
hit the retail circuit in the early to mid 70s. And one of their first sets was the DM 139. If we can get Dennis Brosnan, well, where we are, the players vacate the 7th green and go to the 8th tee, of course, but that's going away from our van.
Yeah, we might get him on the 10th, but
We've got
unfortunately,
more of a chance for a bite, haven't we? A bite of the players as such on the 10th hole. And so most of the play at this stage has gone about halfway. They're halfway through, so they're starting to think of an improving back 9, get the game into shape, hoping it's not going to rain. I think they're safe. And come the 16th or 17th hole, they'll be starting to think of the very agreeable Portsea Golf Club compulsory lunch.
now, if this one on, should we grab Pete? See if we can. Hang on, just bear with me. And he's just checking the hole. Pete, have you got a second for RPP? Okay, great. Pete's going to come over, hit his
Hit a
shot.
senior.
And they're just putting out now on the 7th. So
David Legg wonderful contributor and a friend of RPP's for many years, was always fascinated with Peter Senior's hat. It had one word on it, Festo, F-E-S-T-O.
Uncle Festo, they used to call
Now,
him.
I'm just wondering, I Googled Festo last night thinking, if we are fortunate enough to talk to Peter Senior, what was Festo? Now, Pete should be able to enlighten, because for years and years, and particularly at the Masters at Huntingdale, whereas Sandy Roberts always said where the tradition continues. Now, Sandy recently has retired, and the Masters was originally founded in 1979 at Huntingdale, and it was won by a New Zealander whose name escapes me, who shot 80 in the last round. But not many players shoot 80 in the final round and still win a 72-hole tournament.
Okay, hopefully he's just coming over. We've got some time. Thanks, Pete.
Peter Senior's been very good to join us.
has.
I'm Neil and John. Pete, welcome to Portsea. Last start winner here. How's it going today?
Yeah, not too badly. Got off to a bad start, double bogey the first, but I've got it back to 1 under now.
Oh, well done.
So, pretty tough day.
John and I were predicting that 2 under par should win. How do you place that?
Well, 2 under par's won the last 2 years.
Yep.
I think it's a bit more difficult today, so if you can shoot under par, I think you've got a good chance.
Big storm coming too.
Well,
Big
that's
storm.
always good news, isn't it?
Peter, to solve quite a few bets for years and years, you on your hat was written Festo.
Yes.
I googled Festo last night, couldn't find a thing. What was Festo all about?
Festo is a German pneumatics company.
Right.
I played with the CEO, Dennis Boyer, in the Masters Pro-Am at Huntingdale. And he had such a good day, he said, if you ever get rid of your sponsorship on your hat, I'll sponsor you.
How many years did you wear the Festo hat from memory?
11 years.
I thought so. We said about a decade.
And because I played in Europe, it was a good fit because it was a German-based company.
Of course.
So it did a lot of good for over there. But if you're a builder, you would know the name Festo because a great range of power tools, but it's more pneumatic machinery.
Quickly going back to your early days in Queensland, I'm asking a lot of the pros this. Some did their 3 years traineeship. Where did you do your indentures in Queensland?
Well, when I got kicked out of school, I just practiced my backside off. I worked at night time, turned pro when I was 19.
So you didn't do the 3 year traineeship?
No.
Many of your colleagues did the 3 year under,
no.
say, Charlie Earp or Errol Harvickston or...
No, a lot of guys. Wayne Grady was the first one to turn straight pro, and a lot of guys followed him. If you're a good amateur, you can actually turn straight pro.
And 2 more quick ones. Your first serious set of clubs when you were a teenager?
Pro Simmons.
Pro Simmons?
Yep.
Yep. And first proper putter? A Kushner?
Oh, geez, I probably would have found it somewhere. I think it was a T line.
Oh, good stuff.
But
Pro Simmons.
Yeah, Pro Simmons. I was with them for quite a while.
Jim Gillespie, remember Jim?
Yes, I do.
From Bathurst, he was the Pro Simmons rep.
Yeah, there was a whole heap of guys, Chas Jones and quite a few other guys there that I knocked around with.
Stuff.
It was great fun.
Pete, we don't want to break your stride. Thanks so much for dropping in. You've made our day.
Great. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to
good luck for
catching up later.
defending your title.
Good on you. Thanks.
Okay. Keep it going and keep out of that rain here.
Wasn't that wonderful? Peter
nice
Senior,
of Pete to
very obliging.
Still looks the same too. You know, he hasn't really changed much.
And there he goes, breaking into a semi-jog to catch up with his players.
Yep.
And wonderful chap. A great example of some of the terrific golfing talent that Queensland has produced. Greg Norman, of course, comes to mind. Now, do you know where Greg Norman came from?
Right up the top, wasn't he? Up near Longreach or something like that? Or?
He was more keen on surfing than golf as a teenager. He came from Mount Isa,
That's
where
right, I knew it was up
Pat
the top
Rafter
somewhere.
came from as well. Now, that's well inland from the water.
Well, there possibly wasn't much to do up there, so they'd play golf or tennis, I guess.
Yeah, so Greg Norman, as a teenager, was dragged by his mother, Tony, to caddy for her. And
Is this a true story? At 17, he was off, say, 18.
now we're just getting instructions. Grey sky.
Yeah, I've been watching it over there.
Grey skies are shining above us. So
Yeah.
let's put on a happy face, John.
Now, is this unit waterproof? Good, because we might need it in a minute. But yes, it's not looking good. Yeah. Well, actually, it's coming this way, so we should be pretty right here.
Well, I think a lot of bets will be finally settled now as to what Festo was all about. And wasn't Peter Senior obliging with the truth about Festo, that a manufacturing company?
I had no idea.
Nor did I.
And I know a lot of people called him Uncle Festo when he'd walk past.
Terrific stuff. So Greg Norman, one day when he's finished caddying for his mum went in with her girlfriends to have scones and a cup of tea and chit-chat. And so Greg Norman pulled out a 5-iron and a putter and just started belting balls around and thought, oh, well, this is harder than it looks. And had another go and got a little bit better. And yes, you imagine the rest of the story.
Well, I heard when he was 17 or something, he was off, say, 29, he got down to 1 in a year. Would that be correct?
Easily. Yep.
Yeah.
Easily.
And a lot of stories go around about, especially when the boys are on the circuit, the days of Shearer and that, they'd be all having a beer in the bar after the first or second round. But Norman would be out there just hitting balls.
Well, he was one of the original blokes with an emphasis on fitness and physique. For years and years, especially the likes of Bob Shearer and Ian Stanley, and they'd finish their 18 holes, sign their card, straight to the bar and have a good talk about it.
Yeah, and they'd still be there
and
at 10
maybe hit a
o'clock.
bucket of balls afterwards, but that just depended on the weather and things. But now the players have their own psychologist, their own masseur, their finance manager, in fact, it's a team.
It's an enormous amount of money, and so they can afford it. A bit like the tennis too. You win the Australian Open, you're going to pick up, $2.5 mil.
Tim Schafer says a lot of them too, along the way, have lost their autonomy. You've got to be adaptable, and they were too reliant on so many people and conflicting advice. And this can happen with football teams, where you get your full forward skills coach and your half back line specialists and psychologists and this and that and. Well, he did hit the ball, but...
watch out for the van.
I'm just not sure from where. This is one of the, not complicated, but interesting things from where we are, John. There's so many greens nearby and tees.
You can get hit up here.
That any blasphemies can go unreported as to who said that or who shouldn't have.
I'm surprised we haven't heard any profanities from up there. I tend to hit those trees over there. Believe you me, that's a tough shot out of there. Especially when you've got a northerly, it pushes it that way.
The $10,000 hasn't come close to going off.
Oh, there's that bucket he's talking about. That bucket of
and
golf
really,
balls.
for all the tee shots on this well-known 7th hole, not many are reaching the green in one, in regulation.
And if you have a look, that looks almost like the wind's coming behind them. I mean, I think a 6-iron could work here today.
Now, the SMS is welcome here to the outside broadcast team, the RPP team. SMS 0418 537745 with any questions on today's play or golf in general. And I say that because a text has come through. G'day, Johnny. G'day, Lofty. What is meant by the term hitting a green in regulation?
Oh, this guy has.
Now, what it means to hit a green in regulation means on a par 3, hitting your ball on the green and putting for a birdie, 2 putting for par. On a par 4, hitting the green in regulation means on for 2, putting for your birdie 3, 2 putts for a birdie 4. And on a par 5, on the green in 3. Now, the more greens hit in regulation is what every player strives for, although it is possible, more so on par 5s, to reach the green in 2 and putt for an eagle, or rarer still, to drive the green on a par 4.
Now, an albatross, is that rarer than a hole-in-one?
Oh, yes, yes. For every 10,000 hole-in-ones, there might be 2 or 3 albatrosses.
Truly.
I know a chap who's had 2 albatrosses and not a hole-in-one. Yet often there is someone who, or not often, if you were to ask a golfer how many hole-in-ones these pros, if we asked Peter Senior if he wasn't so busy having to rush off and play the 10th hole, Pete, how many hole-in-ones, you wouldn't blink if you said, oh, look, I've had 8. Albatrosses, Peter? No. Maybe one, but the ratio of hole-in-ones to albatrosses is much favoured.
Isn't there one now? No, I forget the golf course in Melbourne. They've got the plaque, and he's hit it 234 metres out for his albatross.
Yes, on the Roger Mackay.
Ah,
on the 14th at Kingston Heath. He holed his second shot for an albatross.
Gee.
And similarly in Sydney at the Lakes on a par 5, Greg Norman holed a 3-wood years ago for his second shot on the par 5, which went in the hole, hence an albatross. Americans call it a double eagle, but I always think an albatross sounds better.
Oh,
than
of course it
double
does.
eagle.
Of course it does.
So another albatross is a hole-in-one on a par 4.
Now, let me tell you on this, as we're playing here on the 10th, very, very strong Wesley. Pulled out the driver, hit as hard as I could, straight uphill, hit the hill, hit the stick and rolled past a metre.
Oh.
How would that be? And I said, has anyone got their name on the board? No, nothing. Yeah, but we've had a few blokes do that, get very close, because it's only 244 up a hill. And as you understand now, if you get that Wesley behind you, could quite. I've seen the pros on Pro-Am Day using 3 irons to get there,
Yeah.
Battening down the hatches as the storm approaches. Although it just might miss us a little bit. Might just get a little bit of it.
Might go
It's
down,
the one behind it's the problem.
Might just bypass and go down St Andrews Beach towards Cape Schanck down in that direction.
Now, I know of people down there that have wipers on their windows down there because of the salt and the storm that blows in from there.
Tell me, John, you've successfully overcome a serious operation. How's the health getting stronger each day?
Yeah, I was back at the Quacks yesterday, and look, the blood count's still low, but I think I'm sitting around 11. Should be apparently 15 or 16, so you get tired now. During the day, if you do anything physical.
When are you allowed back on the golf course?
Oh, not for a while. He said, look, you'd probably last 6 holes and then collapse.
Well, you don't want that. Cart?
He said, even in a cart, you'd just find it difficult. What I might do is go and have some lessons.
Yeah.
Like now, I had lessons off you, which were, you'd always concentrate on one thing, wouldn't you? Which was good because I had about 100 problems. I'm going, what about this problem? One at a time, you used to say to me, one at a time. But, I might just go and hit a couple of balls.
The main problem with John's and my golf lessons is where would we go for a very agreeable lunch afterwards? And have a damn good talk about it.
And both of us used to turn up on Sunday with very sore heads, but we were single, of course, in those days. And yes, we used to have a lot of fun sitting there and chatting over what went on the weekend. Do
you think you've played every course on the Mornington Peninsula?
Gee, I've had a good crack.
I'll throw a few at you. Devil Bend. Have you played at
Yes,
Devil
played
Bend?
there. Yeah, up near the
good
lake.
Course.
Yeah.
Have you played Mornington?
No, I have not.
Wonderful improving course. It's a lot of money has been spent on Mornington. It's got some beautiful views of Port Phillip Bay.
Has it? Oh,
have you
that'd be
played
nice.
Flinders?
Flinders, yes. It's great. And cars actually drive through the golf course, which is and beautiful views there too. Always windy.
Have you played? This is the one that people have played least. If you ask this question, HMAS Cerberus.
No, I
Is
haven't
that
had a
at
Guernsey.
Crib Point?
No, I haven't had a Guernsey, that one.
Haven't played that one?
No.
Has anyone in the box here played Crib Point or Cerberus?
No.
No? Okay.
Does anybody know where it is?
Yeah,
one. We've got one, yes.
Crib Point.
Yeah, I know where Crib Point is. We're playing footy.
Yep. On the east coast of the peninsula, down the Hastings, Point Leo sign.
St Andrews, have you played there?
No. Funny, driving down yesterday, I stayed at St Andrews and had the good fortune at that nice little alcove of shops on Dundas Street. I think the road changes its name once it goes past Melbourne Road to Sandy Road. This a surf shop and a nice little surfy, not hippie, but just a nice cruisy area. Nothing unusual to hear Jimi Hendrix come popping out of the surf shop, or Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, or all that sort of stuff. And I ran into Steve, and we had a damn good chat about today, and so that was very fortuitous. And he introduced me to the local bottle shop, so we met Joe, and so the least I could do is buy a couple of samplers from her. But a wonderful area, St Andrews. Now, what's that got to do with have I played St Andrews or not? So I had to kill a little bit of time before I could arrive at my host's place. So I went for a drive and drove up St Andrews, and all these billboards saying this is a place and wonderful stay and play packages, and I couldn't see much of the course from the driveway.
Well, I've had a hit there, and there's a par 3, which is a long one. It must be about 190 now, and if the breeze is up, you'd struggle to get there with the driver. I'll tell you, because it can get so blowy there, and you're hitting straight into that wind. Magnificent course, long course, but it's always windy.
For our TV audience, we're doing a cross back to RPP FM for the Glenn Hampson show from Wilsons Road, Mornington. And that is the station proper of RPP administration.
The home.
The studios, and one of the principal studios. A symphony orchestra could record in there, John, couldn't it? There's a piano and an organ and wonderful recording
There's
facilities.
Even a Hammond box in there, I think, from memory, and drums and all sorts of goodies. And Steve, of course, actually, the Tiger's Roar, I think, was recorded in there under the great guidance of Steve there. But and a great track if you haven't heard it, I must admit.
Is that paying homage to Richmond Football Club?
Certainly is, via a child molester, but that's how it works sometimes. Gary Glitter, a cover of that song. So there you go.
Yes, how the mighty fell. Gary Glitter and I think William Shakespeare too. My Little Angel.
We're crossing back down to Lockyer and also Johnny Mack. And guys, I'm just having a look at the weather map here, and a big dirty band of rain looks to hit you in the next half an hour or so.
I think you're right, and we're ducking for cover. We're thinking clubhouse, in front of the bar. What do you think, Glenn?
Have they got one of those like they have at the cricket? I've seen in the Caribbean, the party hole or the party spa.
This is it. This is the RPP van, and there's the halfway house with fully stocked amenities that would appease the most discerning thirst or appetite, Glenn.
And the Guinnesses.
Your mates Johnny and Jack?
Yeah, oh yeah, and Guinness too. Our friend Guinness has just popped in. And
but yes, the weather is a little bit daunting. There'll be touch and go. The players are about 2/3 of their way around, Glenn. So they've been out doing battle, and they'd be now starting to think about staying dry and the agreeable 19th hole, which you have mentioned. But, yeah, do you give complete faith to the weather forecast, Glenn, these days?
No, but this thing on the computer is looking at I think they're using the old dark horse theory.
Yeah. Have you played Portsea Golf Club? Have you been down this way?
But, oh no, it's not that, dear. Glenn, what are you saying? This is my club. I think we could afford to shout you a meal down here. Do you play golf?
No. I play Mario Golf.
Okay. We could set up a computer for you. Come down and have lunch, and we'll go out and have a hit. Hey, I'm looking at that weather band. You're not right. Look, I tell you what, it's a little bit. We're going to get a little bit, but the second band after it doesn't look too flash either.
Oh, well, we're adaptable, and golf was invented by the Scots, so they'd play Rin Huil or Shine. So we'll do our best. But
I'm just watching the crew here. I've never seen so many people race towards the van. What's the record you can hold in here? It could be about 8 or 9, I think. But
Glenn, a great tribute to you and the RPP extensive music library, finding it went straight down the middle, apart from Bill Withers in a split second.
Very good, I must admit. I was very surprised. But there you go. Now, okay, getting back to the 7th, and we've got nowhere to go. The $10,000 prize for Hollamutta.
Oh, thank you.
And, gosh, just give me a cup of coffee. Very good, thank you. geez, this storm's not far away. So this will slow up the game. So I think if you're at 2 or 3 up at the moment, you'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you, Neil, at this stage?
You would. The amateurs playing Stableford, and interesting that Peter Senior, who defending his title, which he won last year with 69, 2 under par. John, when we started our coverage this morning, we both made predictions as to what we thought the winning scores would, or winning score would be. You said 69, I said 68. Peter Senior believes it could even be 70, 1 under par. And these conditions, which are about to become not treacherous, but certainly making the game a lot tougher.
Yeah,
But that's what it's all about. Jumpers are being put back on, and cardigans, and I think we'll see the old wet weather is being donned.
Gee, I watched Peter Lonard just hit off the 10th. Gee, he's got a beautiful swing.
Modelled his swing on Peter Thompson. Short back swing, short follow
very short.
through.
That's what I thought too. Very short.
Minimal moving parts, and
wish I could do that. Now, going back to our par 3, we still haven't had a ball. They should have nearest the green, because the wind seems to be blowing it across into the left-hand bunker.
well, it always looks. The old saying makes it look easy. It's properly done. Golf looks easy, but freely admitted the most teachable and learnable sport, which hinges so much on technique rather than brute strength.
Especially when you see some of these young juniors that are only, say, 16. They have a beautiful swing, a full swing, and they hit this ball, 250. You just wonder, they'd be lucky to weigh 50 kilos, yet just is it the equipment that's made them go further, or the ball, or the...
Well, equipment these days, how can I put it? Equipment these days probably allows for 15% further extra distance than all things being equal 20, 30 years ago. These drivers with heads the size of grapefruits and flexible shafts and lighter, and golf balls are made to react, go further. But it's not all distance these days. There's an old saying, the world's full of, there's millions of long hitters, the trees are full of them.
That's a very good call. Oh dear, and I happen to lose 1 or 2 every time I go around this course.
And furthermore, another old golfing adage, drive for show, putt for dough.
Well, you certainly do when it comes for money.
Now, I think Glenn's ready for us. He's probably delving further into the extensive RPP musical library. He's produced Bill Withers and straight down the middle. So, Glenn, we've got we're about 2/3 of the way through the action this morning, and we'll be chatting with you a little bit later on.
Thanks, guys. And I'll speak to you in a few minutes' time.
So Peninsula Golf is Tim Schaefer. Tim, I've known him many decades. And Tim, welcome to a famous Pro-Am. How's the day unfolding for you?
Well, lofty between shanks, tops, 3 putts. It's going beautifully. But
We did see you par this thing. You parred the 8th?
no,
The 7th,
no,
was it?
that was a bogey. But, yeah, it's good to see you, boys.
Yes, and we'll see you in the clubhouse for the agreeable and compulsory lunch. Do you think you'll get the remainder of your trip? Was it 6 or 7 holes left to go before the outburst of weather?
I think it's past us, love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a confident man. We're just looking at the rate.
Oh, right. Maybe it hasn't.
It doesn't look that
Tim,
flash.
you've been a member at Victoria for many years. You and I have played a lot of golf with Phil Brophy and many other friends down here. When was your first trip to Portsea Golf Course, do you reckon?
Oh, that's about
Early 70s?
no, late 60s. But
Really?
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that now because, yeah, the body's falling apart beautifully at the moment. But anyway,
You'll be fine.
yes, so you behave yourselves, don't get
We
in
have.
the wind.
We've been
very good.
We've got the television feed, which we're commentating on, and
I will make a prediction, though. I don't think par will be broken today.
we're talking to Peter Senior before, and he won it last year with 2 under par 69. He reckons 70 should get there.
I don't think.
I said 68, but I think that was a bit ambitious. John says 69, and the Tim Schaefer selection, par.
Lucky to be par.
And
Really?
amateurs, what do you think they'll come in with?
I don't know. Depends what the
Dribs and
handicap's
Brown's cows.
Yeah.
Now, Tim, the tee-off system, do the pros and amateurs play from the same tees?
Yes, we do.
Okay. How are the pin placements?
Oh, they're
Agreeable?
all right. It's
Friendly?
Except the greens are difficult to putt on with the wind. So that's the killer.
Now, I'm going to ask Tim a question. He has a great golfing memory. Tim, when you started out as a young boy at Victoria, we were caddies together at Royal Melbourne. You had a driver that weighed G3, which is as heavy as you can get. Can you remember the brand of that driver?
2 names. I can't think of it.
Carnegie Clark.
Carnegie Clark.
you
That
go.
was it. It was
tell you-
a brown thing.
That's it. You could do bench presses with it.
But when you got it, it went.
I know of Carnegie
All right.
Hall, but obviously nothing.
Tim,
to do with
we'll let you get on with
Well,
your game.
thanks for this, boy.
See you in the clubhouse.
it. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, it's always affable and good for a chat. Tim, have a chat, Schaefer.
Yep.
As his great mate of ours, Phil Brophy, said, Tim has been known to look for a golf ball off the fairways and end up having a chat with the trees.
Well,
Oh,
now
you
can
didn't see a B-51 coming this way, did you? Or,
That's right,
or
the
was it
old
a hot
B-50.
dot? I can't remember.
Well, they were made out of rocks, weren't they? Hot dots.
The toughest ball was the Spalding Rocket.
Oh,
A diamond couldn't crush. It couldn't crush a diamond, really. It was made of, well, a ball bearing would have been softer than a Spalding Rocket. But there were fewer golf balls in those days, and in the times Tim was referring to, there was the B-51. That was the Schlesinger ball. There was the Dunlop 65. That was the principal Dunlop ball. There was the
who came out with the square ones? Remember they had square holes?
diamonds.
was
I'll
a
think of the
square one.
name of that. I will think of that. Then there was the Penfold Patent. And this is when golf balls, when you take the cover off, remember all the lacquer bands and the
Yeah,
goo
and there was a
in the,
gooey thing in the
yeah.
middle. Yeah.
Well, they're not like that. They're like the inside of a crunchy bar.
They're two
solid,
parts, are they? Two
that's it.
parts now?
2 parts. So the intricacies of a golf ball.
Can I ask this question? Now, you're a pro. Now, I've often hit a ball and they've split. Which bit do you play?
I reckon if they split, they'd probably split like northern and southern hemisphere. It'd be an equal split at the
So
equator.
is it a preferred lie, a preferred ball, or
I
what?
really don't know.
I was just curious.
You've seen that occur?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some catching up to do. I don't play as much golf as I used to, but once this knee repairs, I will be back on the golf course, and this will be one of the first I'll be coming back to enjoy. So,
are you still a registered pro?
I pay my annual PGA subs, get a slight discount for being on the wrong side of 55, and for being what's called not a restricted member, but that are not a full-time participant. Here's Tim Schaefer back again. How did you go off that tee, Tim? Straight down the middle?
Where's the list?
We're just saying before, identifying the players not made easy with caps and sunglasses and years ago.
And a
Tim,
dodgy list.
Years ago, you could pick a player by his swing, but it's like trying to identify a field of 64 runners in a Melbourne Cup. Well, there's only 24 these days, but it's a little bit of guesswork involved. So, Tim, we can't help you with who that chap is 2 fairways away, but the weather is looking a little bit more daunting.
Tim called that. It's splitting apart. The weather
For
might
our
just
coverage
miss us.
that goes through till midday. So the technical team here at RPP has done a wonderful job. Steve, Graham and Pete and other helpers on the boom mics have been here yesterday and before first light this morning, just getting everything ship-shape for our coverage. John, all we've had to do is have the luxury of the boys' good work and the vantage point of the junction here of the 7th green at Portsea. Players seem to be playing a little bit quicker now, almost just trying to speed up play to beat the weather. And that's understandable. I'm sure that will please the bar staff and the chefs in at the hospitality unit of this wonderful new... How long has the new clubhouse been here?
Oh, probably 4 years.
4 or 5 years. So that's when the sequence of the holes had to change here.
Yeah. No, and it's a good change too. I think it's a good setup. I like the way it works.
The question has often been asked because the original clubhouse was off Ralph Avenue.
Correct.
Going up the hill from the Portsea Hotel towards the quarantine station. So the clubhouse was very close to, well, I suppose it's still called Nepean Highway, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was only 100 metres back. Yeah.
And the new clubhouse is further towards the back beach on London Beach Road. The question was, why wasn't the clubhouse built originally where it is now?
Two reasons. We got the view, which we wouldn't have got the view there over at Point Nepean Road, and up the top, if you stand up the balcony, you can see right across over to Queenscliff, and also if you stand at the front of the clubhouse, you can see the back beach. So, and it was an ideal spot to sit it there. So the wind gets it a bit, but look, there was 2 schools of thought. We could have built there, but we wouldn't have got a view, and it probably would have been a bit cheaper. But gee whiz, it's turned out pretty well.
And once a year, Portsea Golf Club has an open day for a membership drive, and on that particular day, and for the next week, there are discount rates on all the different memberships available here, whether it be full-time membership, a 5-day membership, a restricted membership. And so if you think, oh, well, members only, a lot of the courses here on the peninsula, they are businesses, they need turnover, just like restaurants do, and cafes. And, you know, gone are the days with most golf clubs where you have to know him or be this or that and to join. It's a matter of just being knowing the normal rigours of playing club golf. You don't have to be a champion golfer, and the atmosphere is very friendly, particularly at this course, and it is in the top 50 of golf courses, not in Victoria, but in Australia. And I was reading recently there's 1,600 golf clubs in Australia. Now they could span from Royal Melbourne to Avenel in central Victoria, which is sand scrapes. Have you ever played sand scrape
No, I
games?
haven't. I've seen them, but I've never played on one. No.
Well, just talking about sand scrapes as our pictures take us down to the 7th. That's our principal hole where we're broadcasting from. And we're trying to
money hole.
identify the players, but it's not so easy because they're not necessarily playing in the sequence that the draw suggested.
unfortunately.
Now, we're not going to be brazen enough to pretend that that is Ernie Els and that's Peter Senior and that's John McCormick down there. We have to make sure and certain that we call the right horses, and that's why it's so good for Tim Schaefer to pop his head in. And we did eventually get the right Peter Senior, didn't we?
Well, I was expecting Roger Davis to come through, and we haven't spotted him. So I don't know what position he's come off, but we certainly haven't seen him come through yet.
Now, as a chap I'm looking forward to
He was one of
catching
my
up with,
favourites.
Wayne Rogers. They used to call him Buck Rogers. He's the same age as me, and we were doing our trainee professional indentures about the time groups like the Guess Who and ABBA was churning out hits, and I got a wonderful Acushnet putter for Christmas. It was top of the wazzer. It was a magnificent putter, and it went missing one day in a trainee tournament.
Oh, yeah.
It was souvenired.
Don't say Buck took it.
There's a strong reference. Now, yes, possession is 9/10.
Has Buck got one, by the way? He's still using it.
Well, months and months later, Buck started winning a few trainee tournaments and won a huge purse of $15 or might have been $20 then, accrediting all to this new putter that he got for Christmas.
So you're sort of Santa to him.
Now, I haven't
take it,
seen him for 40 years, but still waters run deep, and memories...
You'll recognise him by the putter.
Memories ring out. So what I'm leading to is what odds, and a segment on my show is what are the odds that Buck Rogers holds out for maybe a bogey, and his putter is an Acushnet centre shaft.
Funny you should say that. Two
So,
holes
John, I'll
ago.
leave it to you, John. If he does,
well,
I'll say,
well,
look, there's
it
Buck
does. There
over
it
there.
is.
Buck, how are you putting? How are the greens? What sort of putter do you use these days?
Well, there was a guy there just 2 holes ago, and he's putted a beauty in from about, I don't know, 15 metres, and he's just thrown the putter up and said, "I love you." Could that have been Buck?
It could have been, or Judge Smales in Caddyshack with Billy Baroo. Oh, Billy. Hey, Smales, $1,000, you miss it. Gambling is illegal at Bushwood, and I don't bet. Now, the thing is, my only problem, apart from the putter, I mean, let bygones be bygones, but I don't think I could recognise Buck these days. I haven't seen him for 40 years.
Well, okay.
'Cause
If
Buck
you
had been-
suddenly jump out of this van and chase the bloke, we know what's going on.
You know where things become that old that once they go from being obsolete to a collector's item.
I've still got a pink pal, you know, with the copper head.
Now here's someone we can have a quick chat to. One of the finest opera singers on the peninsula, Gary Bernard Evans.
And it'd be great to get him over for a chat, and I'll just whack these.
I'll just put the headphones on him. Gary Evans, welcome to Radio Port Phillip's live golf coverage. Lovely to see you, Gary.
Much, Lofty. What a pleasure to see your smiling
How
face.
are you hitting him?
Sideways. I hit him sideways.
We're hoping to get the dulcet tones there of Gary, and we have. Now, are you a chance or not?
No.
No.
I'm not a win player.
We're just talking to your great partner of many years, Tim Schaefer, and Tim said it's quite torrid out there.
Torrid, that's a good word.
Torrid.
Brutal.
Yeah, Tim said he's looking forward to an agreeable lunch in there.
He's looking forward to that cork popping.
And Gary, we were just, I mentioned you on my show the other day because we played a great song, Mr. Christopher Columbus.
One of the greats.
Yes.
Please sing it.
Bing Crosby and Jane Wyman. Now, Gary, doing many opera renditions these days?
Retired.
Retired? Yeah. Does that do the voice a favour, not having to do the...
Just the shower.
Just the shower.
Occasional wedding.
They're coming right.
Oh, we're just doing it.
There is a crowd.
Glenn, there's about half an hour's left of our coverage. The players are about 3/4 of the way through their round. Rain is threatening, as you predicted. and the players can sense this. The jumpers are going back on.
Blue
and
sky again. It's come out. It's the
The
blue sky.
pace is picking up for the players to get in that luxury, comfortable clubhouse for a lunch and a bevy. But it could be worse. Yesterday's weather forecast was treacherous.
I tell you what, it's not looking bad now. It's gone blue skies again. It's just gone around us. And I tell you, Glenn, it looked awful too. I tell you what was coming our way. But it doesn't look too bad up there now. This $10,000 looks pretty safe. I think they're going to give $100 to the bloke that can actually get it on the green, because we haven't seen any hit it yet.
Well, we've been here 3 hours or so, and nearest to the pin, which is often a consolation prize. Gee, no one's even got it within a 10-foot radius of the hole.
No.
That's it, radius, isn't it? Halfway through a circle. So, yeah, 10 feet. But undaunted, the players are soldiering on. There's just as many buggies being pulled by the players as there are carts. Interesting, even though it's not, well, it has been sunny, nearly every player's wearing a hat. I've never seen a golf tournament with so many coloured balls.
Yep.
Like Lobby Lloyd, there's been iridescent green golf balls. I saw a few orange ones as well. And that was a fad in the early 90s. I'm just wondering, I know we mentioned this before, John, whether there were giveaways, as often there are. You're playing a pro and you get your show bag. It's got the towel and a cap and a few golf balls and a bottle opener and all sorts of things like that. Souvenirs.
Now, Tony Jewell plays with orange balls. Now, he did have the agency for one of those golf brands, and he still reckons he's got a garage full of them.
Yes, Titleist.
No, they weren't Titleist. He's who brought the first colour ones? Anyway, he's got a garage full of them, and orange and green. So you'll often see him using.
Tony Jewell, of course, famous coach who coached Richmond to their flag in 1980,
Yep.
and a regular down here at Portsea. You've played lots of golf with Tony. In fact, some very well-known people are members of this club, yourself included, John. And Tony Jewell, we're talking to Gary Evans just before, famous opera singer. Tony Jewell is a jazz enthusiast.
Oh,
Did you
is
know?
he what?
Jazz trumpet, particularly. Duke Ellington and James. I'm trying to think of the.
He's into
Harry James.
Yeah, he's into a lot of that too. That probably early '60s jazz, which was a little bit, not traditional jazz anyway.
He serenaded and courted his lovely wife Margaret for many years, like Romeo and Juliet, with Margaret in the Juliet Tower on the first floor, and Tony beneath on the gateway with.
Oh, there we go.
We've got straight down.
Actually, I think we've picked up Tony Jewell's house. It sounds like it. I think we have picked up. There he goes.
Harry James, are you good?
Yeah, wow, gee. Glenn Hampson, can't he play music on
tell you
call?
what, if they bring back...
I'll leave it as a music bit for you and just, mellow out to the rest of your course.
Hey, Glenn, there's a gig for you at Hey Hey if you want it. I tell you, if it comes back on, you're going to get it. That's for sure.
I'll tell you what, I used to work at AW. Ross and John taught me well as to how to do that,
Yeah. And they're still going too, aren't they? They're still battling on there at 3AW. They've done very well. Highest rating breakfast show for the last 10 years, so they've done very well.
Well, it was 3AW where Sam Newman and Greg Evans were substituting Ross and John when they were on summer holidays for that monumental faux pas with Bill Collins, one of radio's best. And I do have a
That was
copy.
funny. I've actually heard it on your show. Can someone tell Tony Jewell to turn that down? I mean, it's, gee, Tony, he goes berserk on that stuff. Oh, it would be.
Yeah, it's a very friendly club, Portsea, and extremely adaptable. So, John, our coverage ceases at midday, so we're only a quarter of an hour to go. So at this stage, again, we'll thank the very dexterous technical team here from the outside broadcast vehicle who've done some wonderful expert work, not only today, but early this morning. Well, that is today and yesterday, setting up, because it's the first golf coverage that this station has done. There's been plenty of football and cricket coverage, but a first for the golfers. So John and I have been delightful
Pleasure.
delighted rather to be part of our coverage. So a big thanks to the team here, and let's certainly hope it's not a flash in the pan, but an ongoing tradition.
I can't get over just how much equipment's here to cover this game. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And we're just on the 7th. They're putting up now. Slight echo in the background there.
Oh, that's right. I must tell you a story of my cricket club days back here in this. You know how every cricket club has the annual golf day, and fewer blokes play golf, so it reminds me of Basher Bradley, Beaumaris Cricket Club. And so we had our annual golf day down here in Basher. He was a good cricketer, but he didn't know much about golf, so he rolled up with an old leather bag the size of your pencil case with his grandfather's clubs. He said, well, these are hickory shafts.
Well,
and they were rusted, and someone said, might have been Tim Shaw, Basher, you can't play, so we'll get you a set of clubs. So they hired him a set of clubs, and Basher wouldn't have been well suited today because the audio, there were plenty of P's and Q's and all sorts of things.
You can't do that.
So he was on this hole, and he said, what club should I use? Because he only teed off the 10th. And this hole we're looking at was the old 12th. So he'd just gone 2 holes. And as he said, he was square on 12. So 11 down the first and 13 up the second. So he pulled out one of the hickory shafted woods. And the leather was flapping off the grip and everything. Went whack. And he connected. So he's a good batsman. Very good batsman, so he had a good eye, and so it took him 3 holes to get the contact, and it hit that tree at the back of the green there.
Oh, don't tell me.
And it bounced back onto the green. Now, it wasn't a hole in one, but it came mighty close. And he said, had it have gone in, he said that would have been his one and only.
Yep.
And he would have given away golf there and then.
I would have too.
And just retired on a winning aggregate.
Now, back in the old days when we had the Pro-Ams here, not that far long ago, it was about, say, let's call it 9 or 10 years ago, we had Eddie Maguire playing, and he was playing with Russell Morris, the singer, right? And Russell was playing that particular night. Now, Russell's the same. He's turned up with his grandmother's golf bag. It's a canvas thing with about 4 clubs in it, all rusted away. And he gets to the tee, and I think your good self might have been doing the introductions, or you and Leggy, whatever, but there was about 400 people lining there waiting for him to hit it, and he's just going, I'm going to kill these people. Well, luckily he topped it and went about 20 feet, and so did Eddie. But when they got to this par 3, he's just gone wipe. He's got there, and the ball's somehow trickled down, gone the bunker. Someone's actually got in, thrown it, and it's gone about a foot short of it. So he's going to get a plus, so he'll come in 17 under rather than the full 18 under. And Eddie Maguire's walking up it, and they used to have the bar here and hundreds of people standing around waiting. As soon as Eddie walked onto the green, they sang "God Save the Queen," because at that stage he was trying to make Australia a republic. So, and that's the hole that Russell Morris got his par on, and came in 17 under.
Gee, hasn't Russell Morris enjoyed a rejuvenation of popularity, and his music's being appreciated by a generation who probably weren't even born when Russell started pumping out great songs. The Real Thing came out in 1969.
He is The Real Thing.
And then other terrific ballads like Rachel's Coming Home and
Wings of an Eagle.
Wings of an Eagle. And he's been a regular on RPP as well.
He comes on a bit.
He's been a regular on your show.
Here we go.
Well, you can count on Glenn to bring them in on cue.
God Save the Queen. It wasn't quite that efficient, Glenn. It's close. Close, though. I mean, it was close. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a class act he was, too, Johnny Rotten. I mean, imagine instead of thanking people after they clap, he used to spit on them. But I guess a lot of people are into it. Yeah, they did all that. Yeah, oh, he loves it.
Did Jamie Redfern model his profile on Johnny Rotten or Sid Fisher?
Not quite.
No, I think of the wrong one, am I?
I used to hang around
or Max
with him a bit.
Max Bygraves or Des O'Connor.
Well, they reckon that's where Jamie Redford picked up that bad habit of his chewing gum. But there you go. Hang around with Johnny Rotten too long.
Well, that just about completes our coverage. All shows will resume at midday. The golfers will probably be out here for about another hour or so. So we'll update you, because I know many people are curious and maybe even had a modest wager on what the winning score will be. And so the picture, the television feed will be continuing, and that's available on the RPP Facebook or YouTube, and I'm sure that can be podcast and viewed later on in the day. But hopefully it whets your appetite to visit this wonderful golf course. And as John and I were saying before,
Sun's out.
Membership is welcome, and no sooner did we talk of bad weather. What happened, Johnny?
Sun came out. Unbelievable. Truly.
Yeah.
It looked like it was going to thunder down.
It almost sounds like a cue for another Glenn Hampson-inspired impromptu song straight out of the wonderful extensive musical
What
vault
about
of
Something
RPP.
in the Air? Thunderclap
Newman,
That's,
yeah.
that's another one.
That came out in
could have come
1969 too.
And,
What a great song.
Well, here we go, the Beatles. Here we go.
From Abbey
Here
Road.
here comes the sun. Well done, Glenn.
It's like music trivia in reverse, isn't it? I love it.
It's like trying to beat the DJ, you know. I said.
Sorry, guys, as you were.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No, we'll bow to Abbey Road any day.
Oh, yeah, great album too. And funnily enough, you know, everyone thinks that's the last album the Beatles released.
No.
It's not correct. It was the last one they recorded, though. And the last one, of course, was Let It Be, but it was recorded probably 12 months before this album, and they had to put another album out, so they threw out Let It Be. And I don't think John Lennon wanted it out there. It wasn't a terribly good album, but for a bad album, it was a pretty good album.
Did you buy all the Beatles LPs and EPs, John?
I was lucky enough to be in a band and we're with EMI, and I got gifted the whole collection. So EMI were very kind to us.
I had a feeling that might be the answer. So do you have most of the Beatles recordings that were
on this
retailed?
CD set? Yeah, I do. And there's a couple of obscure ones, but look, there's new albums come out with recordings from the BBC and all that sort of thing. That
Another.
Yep. Well, we're happy
Glenn,
to.
thanks for having us on your show. It's been a delight to broadcast the golf from this end, and we loved your impromptu musical segues and having a chat too.
Amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of the golf right here, 98.7, 98.3.
And welcome back to RPPFM television. And Neil, the sun is shining. Who would have thought?
Well, it's been topsy-turvy for the last 3.5 hours, but it hasn't rained. It's
No,
threatened
thank
rain.
God.
The forecast has been daunting, but I think most of the players, or not most, all the players will escape unscathed and not have to don their waterproofs.
Just
We've
having
seen
a
jumpers
fine-
going on and off and shorts, and it was certainly much better than
It's
yesterday's
like a little
forecast.
gap. It just went around us. It's quite
And,
amazing.
and being surrounded by water, by an ocean beach and a front beach, can play havoc with the weather, because it's got to have needle-eye accuracy to land on the peninsula, because this is the point, the tip.
Normally
It's not
goes
the-
around to Arthur's Seat because the mountain range sort of pulls it in, and they always get a lot of rain. But honestly, we haven't had any rain down here probably for 3 months. Serious rain. You can tell
And
by
if-
just looking at the golf course.
If the
how
rain
dry it
does
is.
bucket down on this golf course, like many other peninsula courses, the water just seeps. It doesn't flood.
just-
It's great for the vegetation and the wonderful trees. And I know nature lovers have been happy just to walk around this golf course and just admire the views, the trees, the foliage.
Magnificent view. And we must get Steve and the crew. Let's get down to that Point Leo estate. We can just set the cameras up and show them how you sample. We could sample some of the wines there or something. I was there the other day. What a great looking winery that is. With all, you could take the cameras around and look at all the sculptures and just magnificent looking place. I think we should do a tour, Steve. Wineries, how's that? Yeah, got a nod there. And I think we'd be welcome everywhere, the crew.
Well, it's nearly midday. Our TV coverage will continue without us, but we're tipping that the winning score will be updated to, well, Tim Schaefer says par or above. Peter Senior, last year's winner, says 70, which is 1 under par. My tip of 68, 3 under par, well, that's gone way out in betting. That went from about 3 to 1 to 3,000
You
to
don't
1.
know now. The rain
But we
didn't
don't
come.
know. We haven't heard any scores. We're just going by what we've seen from our vantage point here. John, it's nearly midday. Great to see you back. I haven't seen you since last year. And
it's great to be back. Thank
welcome.
everybody. They've done a terrific job here. Look at just even on the screen, just the way it's set up, it's just fantastic. Clear as a bell. What's this last hit in? Who knows? Could be a hole in one. Could be 10 grand on this. Good crack. And he's cheering for the ball. So we haven't seen it appear yet. But yes, needed a bit more club, I think, when it hasn't turned up. Well, let's just pretend that didn't come on the air.
well, it just proves that it is live radio.
Oh dear! So it's got him somewhere anyway. Unbelievable. Someone's adjusting that mic up there. I think we've got a pretty good group on the tee that are coming out with some expletives.
Well, that completes our audio coverage from here at Portsea. And we'll have, certainly for my radio show, Lofty's Grooves Golf and Gallops every Friday at 2 p.m. from Frankston Shopping Centre. I'll have a more comprehensive report on the outcome of this event. And a couple of magpies have just lobbed, hoping for the remains of your sandwich, John, or up to the halfway house. Always just begging for some little throwaways. So we might do better than that and
We'll
return
try.
to the clubhouse as the weather continues to get better. Look forward to covering this wonderful event next year.
It's goodbye from us.
And goodbye from him.